love me. XOXO.
Mike's Mike. Hello everybody, welcome to Mike's Mike. The Daily Mail is reporting that my name is Mike, and welcome to season 4 of my Gossip Girl recap. 1 second please. And are you there, doll? Look, I'm gonna have to call you back about the Met Gala. She won't stop calling me. Okay, I'll talk to you soon. Mwah. Yada yada yada. Yeah, this video took a long time, but if you've seen the other installments, especially season 3, you would understand why these take so long to make. For each episode, I've made a fake gossip magazine cover following the plot points for that episode. These are so gorgeous. Like, guys, I'm literally the Michelangelo of YouTube. Shout out to Hannah for helping me with the templates. I feel like these just look so amazing. Each cover has a real life reference, which I'll show when each cover comes up, but it's mostly just a structural reference. Like, some of the stories match up, but mostly not. Season 4 of Gossip Girl. If I had to describe it in one word, I would say ridiculous. Ridiculous, but so fun. Just absolute peak silly. My personal favorite ridiculousness would have to be business casual blazer Juliet, 17,000 consecutive parties, and Lily's ankle monitor. Something that I think is especially clear this season is the person they end up saying is Gossip Girl is not Gossip Girl in this season. No further comment. To get you up to speed where things are at, I thought I would give you 1-sentence plot summaries from the end of season 3. If you haven't seen my season 3 video, I would highly suggest doing that. It's a little bit excellent, yeah. But also in this video, if I reference something that's happened previously, I'll do it in a way that you can kind of be across it, even if you haven't seen the other recaps. Okay, so here's some 1-sentence summaries. Serena's father, William Vanderwoodson, gave her mother, Lily, fake cancer and tried to get house husband Rufus out of the picture through a fake cheating scandal. Jenny Humphrey went feral and was grounded for 27 years. But before heading off to Hudson, she sent a picture of Dan and Serena in bed to Gossip Girl. Chuck set Blair an ultimatum of meeting him at the Empire State Building or he'll close his heart to her forever. She wanted to meet him but was caught up by Dorota having a baby. A baby which is not in season 4. Now both at rock bottom, Chuck and Jenny slept together, carnage ensued. Blair told Jenny she can never come back to New York. I will destroy you. Dan was dating Vanessa, who's in Haiti. Serena was with Nate for a bit. Dan and Serena weren't together but apparently kissed when she stayed over at the Poverty Loft. Blair told Serena that being with Dan Humphrey is so 08 like Maxi dresses and Miley Cyrus, and then B&S went to Paris. Dan was about to follow his stepsister situationship to Paris when blonde Georgina turned up saying, I'm pregnant, the baby's yours. Chuck was shot in Prague when people tried to mug him and he wouldn't let go of the engagement ring that he was going to give Blair on the Empire State Building. Cool. That's pretty much where we are. Now, in addition to some new characters this season, we also lose some characters. Taylor Momsen's Jenny Humphrey has been downgraded from a main character to a recurring character this season, which is absolutely diabolical in my opinion. Yes, Jenny's annoying, but Taylor Momsen is a great actress. Vanessa Abrams has also been downgraded to a recurring character, but you wouldn't know it based on the amount of ridiculousness she gets up to this season. It's also technically Jenny, Vanessa, and Eric's last season that they're actually in. In season 5 and 6, they're just mentioned off screen. Before we get started, don't forget to leave me a like. Leave me a comment, maybe about what your favorite ridiculous plotline from this season is. And if you're feeling generous, maybe play around with the settings of your ad block. Okay, since I'm serious about my business and this season starts in Paris, let's go to Paris. Hello from Paris. Bonjour, if you will, bonjour AF. Bonjour, do you speak English? Paris is so Paris coded, and I know you know what I mean by that. Like, when I'm in Paris, I feel like I'm in Paris, like Eiffel Tower. Okay. And it's actually mind-blowing to me walking around a city like this. Like, there's so much cool history shit and insane buildings, and I'm just walking past it. What do you mean? And the roofs? Are you kidding me? I've already telepathically downloaded Assassin's Creed Unity for when I get back to Australia. Also, I can almost guarantee that after this segment of the video is done, you're going to say, wow, I've never seen part of a video with such dramatic light changes. That's because I'm dealing with the elements. Elements in Paris. So as we know, Blair and Serena famously went to Paris. Au revoir, Humphrey. We're leaving.
Goodbye, Humphrey. We're leaving.
Is that Blair? Where are you guys going?
Paris.
That's just what these Upper East Side girls do. They jump across the pond. Pond jumpings are now. They said, let's go have a Parisienne jaunt. And that, ladies and ladies, is where we're picking up in season 4. Oomph is in Paris. And we as viewers are celebrating that actively. Like, yes, queening out is on the menu. Queen outs are in. So the girls have been shopping. They've been walking down the street and laughing. They've been wearing ridiculous 2010s outfits that still look good through a nostalgic lens and will be having a comeback via Depop in approximately 6 months. Cobblestones and Cafe de Flore. Serena's luck down the left bank and become a muse to us all. What is this girl doing? Serena Vanderwoodson is always just doing anything in an anything being done capacity necessity, if that makes sense, which it does because I said it, thus therefore it makes sense. Locking down the left bank, meaning fucking around with paints. I think we can all lock down the left bank then. Miss Blair, on the other hand, has been shopping and reading and eating sweet treats with the Eiffel Tower in the background, which is over there, by the way, but I can't actually see it right now because if I wanted to from my room, I would have to pay an extra 2 billion euros per night, and I said no thank you. But see, while Serena and Blair are both obviously in the city of Paris, Blair is also in Flop City Population 1. The only beau B's had this summer is in her headband. Serena's got dates and hot guys giving her numbers and Vespers and ooh la la, and Blair's got nobody matching her freak. Mayhaps because the biggest freak in the entire galaxy, Chuck Bass, just got mega cancelled and pissed her off and ruined everything. Speaking of, although Serena and Blair agreed to not check Gossip Girl while they were in Paris, Blair has been checking and there's been no Chuck updates since he left town. Well, yes, because he's cosplaying cheese with holes in it on a street in Prague. No idea if I'm in focus. Who even cares, guys? It's Paris. Now, back in New York, everyone else is, dare I say, everyone elsing. Like, if you're not Blair and Serena in Paris, do I care what's happening? Rufus and Lily are running around dropping contextual one-liners such as, wish I was with Eric and Elliot in Italy, or Jenny looks so much better in Hudson. Eric and Elliot in Italy. Didn't you guys just meet? Don't piss me off. Also, don't get mad at me, but like, bring back Jenny. You know what I mean? One of the Bass Industries money guys tells Lily that Chuck hasn't been paying the mortgage on the Empire Hotel, so where is he? What's he doing? She calls Serena to ask if S has heard anything from Chuck, which she hasn't. An international call, mind you, just picking up the phone and dialing Paris like it's nothing. That is a 2010s wealth indicator if I ever saw one. Nate, meanwhile, has been using Chuck's little black book to sleep with basically every woman in New York City. Dan has been looking after a damn baby. Yes, that's right. Georgina turned up at the end of last season, told Dan that he was the father of her unborn baby, said unborn baby was born, and now they have a baby named Milo. Everybody welcome to the stage Milo Humphrey. Dan in this plotline, oh my god. He's so annoying. He's literally like, okay, guess I have a baby now. You're annoying. You fobbed off your girlfriend, Vanessa, to potentially chase Serena around Europe, and now you have a baby. What you need is a job. Speaking of Vanessa, Rufus gets her to check in on Dan because he hadn't heard from him in a while. So she pulls up to the poverty loft and sees Dan with Georgina and this random ass baby. While this is happening, Nate takes one of his 7,000 women to a restaurant. She's a category 10 yapper on the phone like, oh my god, you did not. You did not. You did? Oh my god, you did. They sit down at this restaurant next to a woman that's reading. Guys, the parallels of it all. She could never be bimbo on the phone. She's not like these other girls. She's a reader. She's an intellectual. She's an academic. She could never be like bimbo on the phone. Reading lady and Nate start talking, and level 10 yapper's already left to talk to some other guy. When classy reading lady leaves the restaurant, Nate tries to get her number. She's like, no, you thought. Back in Paris, things are going wee for Blair because she meets a man named Louis. That made no sense, but neither does life. So what now? So get this right. She's literally standing looking at one of her favourite Manet paintings, and then this handsome guy comes up like, hey. This coming right after a meltdown about how there's no one in Paris to match her freak. Oh, she won. This handsome guy asks her out. And then a valet driver comes up to this guy and asks him a question. And Blair's like, wait, he's got a private driver. I'm in France. It's giving royal. Perhaps a Grimaldi. But Louis is like, no, get those lights off. I'm just Louis. But Blair's freaking out. She's like, oh, he's got to be royalty. Now this date is a double date with Louis' friend Jean-Michel and Serena. Serena's kind of packing it right now because she got into Colombia. But that's good news, right? Wrong. Blair's been saying, oh my god, love you ass, but it's so good that you're going to Brown and not going to Colombia with me. It'll be so good for me because we won't be competing all the time. So good that you're going to Brown and not Colombia. So Serena's been trying to tell Blair this Colombia information but hasn't had the chance yet. At the date, Louis turns up driving Jean-Michel. Blair's like, ooh, stinky. Smells like poor people. You're the driver, not the drivee. She's also pissed that now somehow Serena has scored the royal in their double date. Remember, Blair suffers from jealousy-itis. I could probably just say she suffers from jealousy. Or she's jealous. Can I speak like a normal human being? Also, what the hell is What is this? What is this? She needs to be locked up. She needs to be put in the catacombs. Dan tells Vanessa the lowdown on the Milo situation. The Milo down, if you will. Georgina turned up. Now I have a son, but I'm not sure if he's actually mine because I need to do a paternity test, lol. But Georgina's been so nice lately, so maybe everything's fine. Daniel Humphrey, be serious. Georgina's been doing side-eye the whole episode, looking at Milo's birth certificate, which is missing Dan's signature. And Dan's saying he'll sign it once a paternity test comes back. At a random-ass fashion event, Lily mentions to Eleanor in passing that Serena is going to Colombia. Uh-oh. Also, name brand Carly Kloss is there too. Okay. Bad Blood music video teaser. Actually, great question. Why wasn't Blake Lively in the Bad Blood music video? At the same event, Nate sees that reading girl from earlier. She's working at the event and introduces herself as Juliet Sharp. Georgina turns up. Why are you there, Miss Girl? Go look after your baby. Oh wait, the baby's there too. Oh wait, she's at the event to surprise Rufus and Lily with their grandson. Oh, okay.
Whose baby is that?
Here you go, Grandpa.
Here you go, Grandpa. Like, that's her way of introducing Milo. She's diabolical. So now this Milo mess is in the open. Lily's angry at Georgina for like 3 seconds, and then she's like, yes, baby. Oh my God, look at this baby. Snaps for baby the house down. Rufus, however, is like, what the fuck is going on? I will not even look at that baby in a grandson capacity until we do a paternity test. Has everyone collectively forgotten that this lady is clinical? Georgina jumps in like, well, yes, I secretly did get a paternity test done, and here's the results. Boom. Dan's the father. Rufus isn't buying it. Like, let's do our own test. But Dan calls the doctor who says, yep, the results are correct. So Dan's like, okay, cool. Let me sign this birth certificate.
Well, thank you, doctor. I appreciate you confirming these results yourself.
Well, thank you, doctor. I appreciate you confirming these results yourself. I think that's my favorite line of the entire episode because that is so not a real human sentence. Speaking of sons and parents, is anybody going to tell Dan's mother? The way they talk about her being in Hudson, you think she's permanently stuck there. Like she's a piece of furniture. Now, guys, I'm very excited to announce that we've already got some fuck-ass product placement in episode 1. When Nate and Juliet are talking at this event, he gets a call from the Empire's security saying that there's an emergency in his suite. The two of them go to the suite and find a bunch of models playing, hang on, let me check my notes, Rock Band 3.
You want to play Rock Band 3 with us?
Juliet's watching this all unfold like, you're in a crisis. And when you're ready to uncrisis and be classy, here's my number, give me a call. Blair's double date eleganza extravaganza with Serena, Louis, and Jean-Michel is not going well. And it's about to get worse, because Eleanor calls her to talk about Serena going to Colombia, and Blair is fucking fuming. She storms out of the date and Serena tries to calm her down. It's like a revolving door with these two. Just constantly a combination of Blair being jealous and Serena being reckless and who temporarily outflops the other at any given time. They have a big back and forth about Colombia and Serena says, well, I want to go, so I'm going. To which Blair says, well, I'm going back into our double date and telling him that you had to go home because you fell in the fountain. No, I never fell in the fountain. Yes, you most certainly did. This is so dumb, but imagine if Serena turned into a mermaid. Blair goes in and tells the dates that Serena fell in the fountain, and then Serena walks in sopping wet, grabs her shit and leaves. Blair also tries to angle for Jean-Michel, fobbing off the lowly driver Louis, but it turns out that Louis is a Grimaldi and he's literally a royal, and he was testing Blair and she flopped atrociously. He thought maybe someone who loves what I love, the Manet paintings, could love me too. Oh, she fumbled. All the fumblings from Fumble Beginnings. Now, of course, Blair goes and apologizes to Serena, and she also says that she's worried that she'll never get over Chuck. Yeah, remember that absolute shit show at the end of season 3? Him trading her for a hotel and then sleeping with underage Jenny? Yeah. That happened. Serena and Blair make up, of course, and they flip the narrative about Columbia to be, okay, wait, it's going to be so fun to queen out together at the same college. Now it's time for 3 messes. Mess number 1. At the Poverty Loft, Georgina leaves a note for Dan saying that she's going to the spa and leaves with a suspiciously large amount of luggage for a spa trip. What's going on? Mess number 2. After Gossip Girl blasts that Serena's going to be going to Colombia, Nate calls Juliet to get a coffee and have a chat. We see Juliet at her apartment and she's got this fucking board of Gossip Girl blasts about everyone and everything. What in the appropriately unhinged recap of Pretty Little Liars is going on here? She wants to be me so bad. Mess number 3. Lily gets a call from the Paris police that a body has washed up with Chuck's ID and belongings. We then get a flashback scene of Chuck and his gunshot wound being treated by this random blonde lady, interchanged with pain flashbacks about his greatest hits. Him creeping on Jenny and Serena in the pilot. Nate punching him. His mega ultra breakup with Blair. After saving him, the blonde girl asks him who he is and he's like, that says Henry, that says Price. Henry Price. Yeah, I'm Henry Price. There's something so funny about him trying to distance himself from this name Chuck Bass, which sounds rich and like a nepotism baby, and he picks the name Henry Price. Like, you still sound like a rich nepotism baby. Also, is that Claire Danes? I strongly believed so, and then I googled it and it said it's Clemence Posey. Who the hell is Clemence Posey? They're just making up identical Hollywood twins at this point. Chuck's then on a train from Prague to somewhere with this girl. They get off the train and she says, "Welcome to Paris." Paris mentioned. Guys, I'm in Paris. Guys, I'm in Paris. Paris. Might go to the Louvre. Might go to the Jardin. Napoleon once said that secrets travel fast in Paris, but Gossip Girl travels faster. Bisous, bisous, Gossip Girl. In episode 2, the girls are very much still queening out in Paris, but we can feel that the end of queenings is nigh through sentences such as, "I can't believe it's almost time to go back to New York already." Like, thank you, Serena, for that context. She's got to go back and work out if she's picking Dan or Nate. Mess. She left that mess and said, "See ya, I'm off to Paris." But now she has to go back. Oh. Blair's got a second chance date with Prince King Duke Grimaldi Louis. And her plan is to act all princes of the people, like, "Oh my god, I love street food. I love these back alleys of the city." Lily calls Serena and tells her about the washed up body with Chuck's ID and asks if she can, check if it's Chuck. Do a Chuck check. So she does, and she decides not to tell Blair. Serena goes to the morgue and meets up with the detective, who shows her the body and it's just some random guy. Pause. I literally sat up in my chair when I realized this. I was looking at my screen and I was like, that's the old Italian man who dies in surgery in Lost Season 2 in Jack's flashbacks. Once again, the power of the MMCU. Chuck's been hanging out in Paris with non-Claire Danes. She's set him up with a job with her uncle in Paris or something. Blech, whatever. While he's walking to work, however, in the streets of Paris, he's nearly run over by ... Blair's taxi. Walking in the streets of Paris. I did that today. Wow. So now she's had eyes on Bass, but she didn't even know that he was potentially dead in a ditch. She's just temporarily seen him limping with a cane, and she's like, driver keep driving. Swiper keep swiping. In New York, Nate's been getting close to this Juliet lady, and he's told her the whole story about Serena, and Juliet's basically recounting this story back to him to show how ridiculous it is. And it's funny because it's clearly a joke by the writers to show how silly the plot is. Like, oh my god, Nate, the only thing that would make this even crazier is if one of her love interests was her brother. Oh, Miss Juliet, she's very much weird lady vibes. What are you doing? What are you doing, weird lady? Consider getting a job. Let's open an Indeed tab. Nate's like, ugh, I think I do want Serena. Ugh, but will she even pick me? And jobless Juliet is like, let's spend the next 24 hours eliminating Dan from the Serena competition. How about you get a job? That's basically what Nate and Juliet do this entire episode, just jobless meddling. And also that brings to light another thing about Nate, where he's drama-free, but he's always in the drama and actively making the drama. Juliet convinces Nate that it's a good idea to tell Vanessa that Dan said he loves Vanessa so that they sleep together. And then hopefully Dan will fall in love with Vanessa and withdraw himself from the Serena race. So Dan and Vanessa do sleep together, and then this whole truth comes out and Vanessa's like, what the fuck is happening? Like, what's happening? Are you obsessed with Serena? Are you with Georgina? What the fuck? Also, remember when Vanessa and Nate dated? Like, potentially even more than once? Also, Dan and Nate find out that Serena's going to be going to Colombia, and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, is she going to pick ex-flame Nate or stepbrother situationship Dan? Let's find out. In Paris, Serena and Blair talk about Chuck. Serena's saying, we need to check on Chuck, a la Chuck check, and make sure that he's okay. And Blair's like, I kind of couldn't care less. Hashtag rotten hell, hashtag not my problem. And see, the thing is, it's not her problem. Serena works out where Chuck's been working, gets his address, and turns up at the apartment he's staying at. Her outfit here, please. Okay, hammer time. Chuck sees Serena and he's like, Chuck Bass doesn't live here. He's renouncing his old ways and he's literally starting fresh. He's going to get a new ID as Henry and disappear as Chuck. I would rather have nothing than be Chuck Bass, not the prison of his own making. Serena's like, oh no, this is bad, this is insane. And I say, let him go. Meanwhile, Blair's getting ready to go to a ball with Louis, and he gets a driver to drive her to a diamond jeweler to pick out a little piece for the ball. And at the jeweler, she's like, oh my god, that right there is the most beautiful ring I've ever seen in my life. Oh my god. that is gorgeous. But then Serena and Lost Season 2 Spine Guy turn up. The ring belongs to Chuck Bass. You're kidding. It's the ring that he was going to propose to Blair with at the Empire State Building, and the guy shot him for it in Prague and tried to sell it for cash. And get this, the detective tells Blair that the blood that was on Chuck's wallet, which washed up with the body, is Chuck's blood because he got shot because he wouldn't let go of the ring. It's so... Serena convinces Blair that she's the only one that can intervene and prevent Chuck from ruining his life. And of course this means that Blair has to bail on the royal ball with Louis to check on Chuck. Stop ruining her life challenge. But Serena does have a point, because if Blair doesn't do anything, she'll regret it forever. And she can just never speak to Chuck again. Like, let's cash in those good person points, yes. Also, Serena tells Blair that Chuck is going to sign over everything he owns, including his hotel, to Lily, and Blair says, well, hopefully she can run it without entering the human flesh trade. Serena and Blair go to the train station to stop Chuck, the train station known as Gare du Nord, which is exactly where I'll be in 12 hours. Guys, I'm literally Blair Waldorf. Like, I am literally Blair Waldorf. So at Gare du Nord, Blair finds Chuck and she's like, look, I don't love you, but you're still part of my life. Don't be a fucking idiot. And he listens. Serena flies back to New York. Juliet apologizes to Nate for being insane with the meddling, and they agree to just be friends, because that's worked so well with his female friends before. Dan talks to Vanessa and tells her that he read on Gossip Girl that Serena was coming back to New York and he didn't even care, and he was actually thinking about Vanessa. So now they're back on. Actually, also in this episode, Vanessa's looking after baby Milo and says, living on a commune, you clock a lot of babysitting hours. And when she said that, I was like, what is your story? What is your story? Serena arrives at the poverty loft. Like, hey, you guys, it's me, Serena. I'm back from Paris. It's me, Serena. I gotta make my choice. Dan walks in holding Vanessa's hand. Oh. Nate walks in holding Juliet's hand. Oh. Looks like in her process of working out who to choose, they chose someone else. Then Dan goes and fetches the random ass baby, and Serena's just standing there so overstimulated. It's like a sitcom. Actually, so much of these 2 episodes has felt like a sitcom / soap opera. Rufus sees in Milo's baby book that he's O negative, which is confusing because Dan is AB positive. Rufus is very much still team Georgina is insane and that baby is not Dan's. Blair tells Louis that she can't keep living a fairy tale and that she's going back to New York and he knows where to find her. And she gives him one of her heels, Cinderella vibes, which means she's walking around the Louvre without fucking shoes on. Blair Waldorf would never do that. Nate officially asks Juliet out and she's like, not yet. But when you're ready, then yes. Later on at Juliet's apartment, she's pulling down her Gossip Girl wall and she's on the phone. She says, I had to improvise, but I got it done. Miss you. Huh? Chuck meets up with non-Claire Danes and he's back to wearing his fuck-ass suits and he says, I'm Chuck Bass. And he asks her to come to New York with him. Did you get me a ticket? We don't need tickets. I'm Chuck Bass. My issue with this plotline is, why would this random girl even bother to save him in Prague and then go through all of this drama and move cities for him? Like, why would she do that? It's too far-fetched. This show is rooted in reality. Everything that happens in this show is real. And I draw the line at this. Anyway, so now everyone's gone back to New York. Au revoir, Paris. Oi, au revoir, Paris. So, let's go to New York. Now that we're back in New York, things are about to get ridiculous, and I mean that in a plot sense. This season truly feels like throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing if it sticks. Have you done that before? Throw spaghetti at a wall? Well, if you haven't, don't worry, just watch Gossip Girl Season 4, it's the same experience. The Juliet storyline, the Raina Thorpe storyline, the Cousin Charlie storyline. They're just throwing shit and seeing what sticks. And see, you can do things like that with a 22-episode season. Like, go for it, babes. We've got the time. We've got 880 minutes. So we're back, and it's the first day of school. Remember, at the end of Season 3, Blair transferred from NYU to Columbia, which does make more sense for her. But then remember, her going to NYU was part of her character development, from being like hoity-toity to like Brooklyn girl. And Serena ended up enrolling after her year of rest and relaxation flopped, and she is excited to be starting college and excited that Gossip Girl is down. Baby, are you down? Eric quickly tells Serena, babes, Gossip Girl is not deleted, she's just down, and she's probably planning something big. And I guess she has been kind of quiet for the Paris episodes. I guess her tendrils don't really reach that far. Also interesting that Eric is the one to be like, oh, Maybe she's under construction. Ooh, messy. Thank God he's back from his contextual holiday with Ellie in Italy. When I was writing my Gossip Girl season 4 script, all I could think about when I was writing Eric was Eric, as in Magneto, X-Men. The best X-Men character, question mark? One of many. So our Gossip Girl Eric is doing all these sassy little things, and in my head I'm like, that's Magneto, which does make sense. So Serena and Blair are at Columbia. Not even one day into the new school year, and Blair is already chasing after another club/society. This time Hamilton House, chasing after an elite social club to climb to the top. A likely thing for Blair Waldorf to be doing. Hamilton House has this thing where you need a key to become a member, a key granted by the keymaster, who just happens to be, drumroll please, Juliet. This is our first Juliet and Blair interaction, which is monumental considering these two actresses were in Monte Carlo together, which came out a couple months after Gossip Girl season 4 aired. That was real cinema. I do believe that Monte Carlo the movie will be inducted into the MMCU Hall of Fame. As we know, everything in the MMCU is connected, so it makes sense. So Juliet gives Blair a key. Welcome to Hamilton House, babes. But no keys left for Serena. Juliet also blanks Serena, like, who are you? I don't know you. Even though they literally just met in Dan's loft post Paris Baby Milo reveal gate. So all that to say that Juliet is definitely up to something, as we know. Hello, she's got an appropriately unhinged recap of Serena Vanderwoodson in her apartment. It's so funny because Serena says, we've met, like so flatly.
Hi, we've met.
I'm sorry, we have?
She wants her dead. Duh. Chuck and Eva, blah, blah. Like blah, blah, blah as hell. She's on the Empire rooftop looking at the city like, your world is crazy. And Chuck's like, everything the light touches is yours. Okay, Mufasa. Eva doesn't know all of the dark and crazy shit from Chuck's past. And Nate's like, Tovlo Sunshine Kitty track 6, are you gonna tell her? Now remember, Chuck slept with underage Jenny at the end of season 3, so now he's a major enemy of many, including Rufus, Dan, and Eric, who tells Rufus that Chuck tried to force himself on Jenny all the way back in the pilot. So now Rufus is even more angry after he'd temporarily agreed to give Chuck a second chance because Jenny said that what had happened wasn't all his fault. Chuck meets up with Lily and apologizes for years of fuckassery and asks her to talk to everyone to try and get back in the good books. A Gossip Girl blast goes out telling everyone that Chuck is back in town with Eva in tow. I spy with my many eyes Chuck Bass returning from Paris with a pretty new fall accessory. Like, sorry, but I spy with my many eyes is so good. Shakespeare, you're nothing. Then Gossip Girl reveals what she's been updating on her site. She's got a live feed of Serena being rejected from Hamilton House. Okay, upgrades. Upgrades, people. Upgrades. So Eric was right. Magneto was right. Blair tells Serena that she'll drop out of Hamilton House too so they can still be together. Remember, they're duo queening at Columbia. The war is over. Blair, no. I know how bad you want this. I know you love little society. You stay in and we can just hang out later. So Serena's twiddling her thumbs and she calls Dan to hang out, but he's too busy with Milo Gate. Then she runs into Nate, but he's a Hamilton House member, so he's like, bye, Serena. It's bad for her. Later on, she sees that Gossip Girl is live streaming Blair having martinis with Juliet and the rest of Hamilton House, even though Blair had made plans with her to hang out, but then bailed saying that she was too tired to go out. Serena, babe, that is barely a taste of how bad the internet can be for your mental health. Quick sidestep, that is something that I liked about the Gossip Girl reboot, how the internet can be used for literally pure evil. Blair tells Serena that Juliet told her not to mention the Hamilton House martinis, and Serena's like, well, this Juliet is the reason why I didn't get in the first place, which pisses off Blair because of course Serena thinks there's some conspiracy theory about why she didn't get into this high society club, but there is a conspiracy because Juliet gives a random girl a key, which Serena sees. But wait, didn't Juliet say there were no keys left? Then Serena also sees Juliet leaving Hamilton House with Nate. Also, side note, this is the same story over and over again. Blair is insecure and fights her way into an exclusive club or society. Serena should get in just because she's Serena. Then Blair says, you've never lost before, you're mad. Serena confronts Juliet, like, are you doing all of this to keep Nate from me? And Juliet says that there was no key for Serena because the alumni committee, which decides who gets in, got a call from Blair tipping them off about a sex tape with Pete Fairman. Remember Pete Fairman, Georgina Cocaine? Yeah. Juliet tells Serena that Blair did this to keep Serena out of the spotlight. You know how jealous Blair gets? Lily had told Chuck to bring Eva to Fashion's night out, which feels like a 2010 relic. While shopping for a dress, Eva runs into Blair and she tries to be nice to Blair. But Blair's like, ugh, yuck, bleh. Be gone, poor. So Eva's like, eep, eepa, eepa. Simpsons movie reference, yep. Maybe I'm not cut out for this lifestyle. But Chuck's like, no, it'll be fine. Everything will be fine. Let's just go to the event. At said event, Rufus is on a warpath post Chuck Jenny pilot reveal and asks Chuck, is that Eva over there? Because I'll tell her how fucked up you are and to stay away from you. And Chuck, trying to protect himself and Eva, says, oh, she's just no one. Don't worry about her. Just a social climber. Eva's hearing this like, ugh. He later apologizes to her and tells her all of the horrible and crazy shit that he's done in his past so that it can't be used against them again. Eva listens and she's like, right. Well, I believe in the man that you can be. Whatever, girl. Like, Serena arrives at the event hunting for Blair after Juliet told her that Blair set her up. Then Serena and Blair start fighting, fisticuffs, babe, and it's being live streamed on Gossip Girl. Juliet's like, that's not enough. I want it live streamed across the TVs in this event. It's like the capability of live stream was invented in 2010, and Gossip Girl was like, I'm going to put this in every single scene. Then Juliet's like, oh my God, you guys, I need to help Blair. Like, that's my new Hamilton House sister. She opens a curtain where Serena and Blair are supposedly physically fighting and reveals Serena and Blair full queening out, just sitting there watching themselves fight on the TV. It was a setup. No more high school shit in season 4. They subverted even our expectations by setting up the same invite drama plotline and then switching it up. Gossip Girl aired the fight footage they pre-recorded as a favor, and that right there is girlhood. The fake fight is so good, by the way. Blair rips into Serena by going through her dating history. Nate, then Dan again, Aaron, Gabriel, Carter, Tripp, then Dan again, then Nate again. Then Nate turns up at Fashion Night Out and he's seeing all this unfold. Serena and Blair pull Juliet up on her lying stunt, saying that she did it because she's jealous of Serena and wanted to keep Nate. Even Lily turns up, like, yep, half the Bass board are Hamilton House alumni, and they said that Serena should definitely have been given a key. Juliet, babe, you're toast. She sulks out and Serena tries to talk to Nate, but he's like, I didn't like that little show you just put on then, Serena. He asks Juliet if she really was jealous of Serena, and she's like, yeah, babe, I want you. And he's gagged a bit because he thought that she actually wasn't interested this whole time since she's been playing so hard to get. Then they kiss, like, okay, sure, I guess. Nate watching this shit unfold, revealing that Juliet is some kind of fucking felon. And he's like, yes, let's date. Let's do it. Also, in Babygate news, following on from last episode's blood mathematics not adding up, Georgina is now nowhere to be seen. Dan's converted Queen Jenny's old room into a flop room for this rando baby. Unacceptable. A Gossip Girl blast informs Dan that Georgina is holidaying in St. Bart's. What the hell is happening? Come collect your child. Also, yes, that's right. New information for Dan learned from a Gossip Girl blast that takes him by surprise. Dan decides that he's going to keep Milo if Georgina doesn't come back, even if the baby isn't his, because he'd rather have that than Milo grow up in foster care. He tells Vanessa about this whole drama, and Vanessa moves into the poverty loft to help him care for the baby. Then Georgina pops back up. Where the hell have you been, lady? Georgina tells Dan, sorry about all this shit. I did it because someone was trying to kill me. Huh? She hooked up with a man named Sergey on a plane and got pregnant. Sergey had a wife named Oksana who wanted Georgina dead. So Georgina thought, hold on, if I can convince these people that the baby's not Sergey's, then they'll stop trying to assassinate me. Enter nice guy Dan Humphrey. She had Sergey's DNA test results labeled as Dan's so that he would write his name on Milo's birth certificate and save her and Milo's lives, and voila. The thing about Georgina is, yes, she's insane. Not denying that, and she's done some horrible shit, yes, but her plans are always pretty well thought out. So now that the plan worked, she's taking the baby back and moving in with her parents. You're crazy, you can't take him. Actually, not your choice because he's not your son. And then she just leaves. How is she allowed to just leave after that? Absolutely bonkers plotline. And speaking of bonkers plotlines, at the end of this episode, Juliet visits a man in jail and says, the guys were easy, but the girls are presenting a little bit more of a challenge. Don't worry, I'll get it done, I promise. She also makes a joke about him having to be careful to not be assaulted in prison because he's so hot. Okay. Also, I feel like Juliet has just appeared out of nowhere. Like her appropriately unhinged recap of Serena van der Woodsen on her wall in her apartment, plus these prison scenes, they're kind of giving class imposter up to something. But then these Hamilton House types acknowledge her and seem to know her. Okay. Also, I cannot for the life of me get a read on her age. I think it's because they styled her as the year 2010. Like she embodies the year 2010 so insanely, but then at the same time has no discernible age appropriate dressing. Like, who are you? And how old are you? I'm so confused. When she popped up as the bloody key keeper, I was like, since when are 30-year-olds cosplaying as college-age key keepers? What's going on? Mind you, no Juliet outfit can match up to a Vanessa outfit. That girl. In episode 4, Blair calls Dan and Vanessa Humphrey and Dumpty. Amazing. Gold star. Blair invites Serena to move in with her. Cute. Serena's boring ass room design not as cute. I feel like Serena Vanderwoodson would surely want some kind of personalized decor. Blair and Serena being in single girl era at the same time is iconic, but I don't feel like they used it to as full a potential as they could have. At this point, they both can see that the other isn't over their ex. Blair is reading about Chuck in the newspapers, and Serena is keeping an eye on who Dan and Nate are seeing. So they agree to make sure the other stays away from their respective ex or mess. So let's check in on Dan and Nate. Dan's upset over Milogate. Vanessa's trying to help him move past it all by talking about his feelings, but Dan's like, blech, stop making me talk about my feelings. Maybe I'll go hang out with Serena because she definitely won't make me do that. So he does. And she doesn't. Dan tells Serena that things have been weird with Vanessa since she moved in, and that's probably because he's still not over Serena. Oh, brother. Remember, at the end of season 3, Dan was actively dating Vanessa, but was about to drop her like a sack of potatoes to chase after stepsister situationship Serena prior to Georgina baby reveal. Bro is so cooked, like he's lost the plot. In this episode, he sees Serena in a nice dress and goes, oof, damn, that dress is not fair. While living with Vanessa, who moved into his poverty loft to help care for his supposed child, mind you. Nate is getting increasingly suspicious of Juliet because she keeps saying that she's going somewhere when she's not, never invites him over, and is just being generally shady. Not she had to go somewhere. Okay, Serena, I have to go. G-O-U. Well, we know that Juliet is entering weirdo territory because she pulled that Serena key stunt. So Nate asks her, what the hell is going on? Are you seeing someone else? No, babe. She's doing an appropriately unhinged recap of Serena Vanderwoodson on her apartment wall. Juliet's like, no. But then Nate sees a text on her phone from someone named Ben, saying he needs to see her. Bring, bring. Ben. No. Yes. Ho, ho, ho. They're not going to know what that fucking is. Juliet says, Ben is not my boyfriend. Benny Jr. is not my boy. But then Nate ends it between them, citing shadiness and Ben allegations. But then Juliet explains, Ben is my troubled brother. So then Nate's like, okay, cool. Fantastic. Issue solved. Let's get back together. As a viewer, when Juliet tells Nate that Ben is her brother, I don't believe it because she said that weird joke about being careful not to be assaulted because he's so hot. But then he actually is her brother. So it's like, what? So Nate and Juliet are back on and they go back to her apartment, which is not her apartment that we love, the one with the appropriately unhinged recaps and events on the wall, but actually someone else's place that she pays the doorman for access to seem like a rich Upper East Side girly. Juliet's also been running around like a fucking cartoon villain, trying to find ways to worsen things for Serena. She sniffs out the Dan, Vanessa, Serena drama and tells Vanessa, oh no, the problem isn't Dan, it's Serena. Literally like an old hag from a fucking Disney movie. It's actually so funny because what is your beef, lady? We actually do find out her beef and it's kind of serious. But whatever. Dan asks Serena who she was going to choose when she came back from Paris, out of him or Nate. And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, you're pissing me off bad. Some people don't need to choose. And he storms off. Now, Mr. Chuck Bass, he's a changed man. Eva's got him donating to charity. He's running around being nice to people. These are never before seen scenes. Blair, even though she should be staying away from Chuck, gets all up in hashtag Chaver. She thinks that Eva is Shadiana Grande and witnesses her selling an expensive watch Chuck gave her for cash. Blair takes this info to Chuck like, aha, got her, she can't be trusted. But it turns out Eva was selling the watch to get the cash to give to one of the workers at the Empire Hotel because his family was about to lose their house. Oh, Eva, you're so generous. I'm going to be so extremely real. I do not care about the Chuck-Eva plot line. That's my truth. So I'm going to summarize the rest of this Eva arc so that we can move on. Blair finds out that Eva was a prostitute. Oh my God. She must be bad news. She must just want to be with Chuck for his money. She tells Chuck this info, but he doesn't give a fuck. So then she makes up that Eva knew Chuck before they met and has been lying this whole time. After Blair plants Chuck's lost passport in Eva's suitcase, he believes it and he breaks up with Eva. He eventually finds out that Eva is innocent and tries to get her back. I want to get her back. But Eva's like, babe, this shit is way too crazy. I'm going to go back to Claire Danes doppelganging in Europe. Chuck is so mad at Blair and declares Upper East Side war. The point of Eva seems to be a way for Chuck to come back and prove that he has his humanity, which it seems like he just lost again. It also showcased that whatever growth Blair was trying to do without Chuck just goes out the fucking window when he comes back and isn't hers. She just goes idiot mode. There was also a moment in this episode where Serena tells Dan, even though you may regret entering my world, at least you've developed terrific social espionage skills. To which Dan says, Well, as they say, adapt or die. Wow, Dan, you are so good at computer. In episode 5, Chuck is following up on his threat to Blair to start a war between them by messing up her latest endeavor, assisting a powerful businesswoman named Martha Chamberlain. There's the usual Blair trying to secure a win antics, all thwarted by Chuck. Serena, meanwhile, is in her study era. She's getting up early and hailing a cab to Columbia. Serena Vanderwoodson never, ever takes the subway. Look at this ridiculous Louis Vuitton iPad case. Guys, new character alert. During such cab hailings, she meets Colin Forrester, who I think lives in the same building as Blair. Remember, Serena's staying with Blair at the moment. And he battles with Serena every morning to get a cab to send a different woman on their way. Colin Forrester stays busy. He's a player. He asks Serena out, and she's like, no. I'm classy. Juliet has been checking in with Ben in prison and updating him on plan ruin Serena Vanderwoodson. Ben's worked out that Juliet's dating Nate and he's mad because that's not part of the plan. And Juliet's like, I'm doing it so that I can stay in Serena's immediate circle. He reminds Juliet to stay on course and tells her that they're ruining Serena's life because of what she did to him. What's she do? These prison visit scenes are so bold and the beautiful. It's so goofy. Okay, so what's the next step of that plan? Get her out of Columbia. Juliet sends Gossip Girl a tip that Serena has an STD, and Serena reads it like, ugh, whatever, it's not true. A Gossip Girl tip that Dan and Nate get at the same time and both react to as new information, by the way. But then while this is happening, Nate and Juliet are starting to get serious, and she asks him to get a test before they do anything. A test conveniently timed so that the Serena rumors would appear true because Nate Archibald's getting a test and everyone knows that Nate and Serena used to hook up. Old mate Nate is oblivious to what Juliet is up to, but Serena's not. When Juliet tells Serena that Nate freaked out when he read the GG blast, Serena's like, yeah, whatever, I don't trust you. But then she sees Nate and Dan heading to get a test done, which Dan is there purely in a BFF capacity. He's not getting tested. This fucking clip of Juliet gliding around the tree made me piss myself laughing because what are you doing? This next bit is so ridiculous. Serena asks Nate not to do a test right this second because it will confirm the rumor. He sends Dan into the clinic to sign up for him. Someone takes a pic of Dan at the clinic and sends it to Gossip Girl, who posts it, and Vanessa sees it, so now she thinks that Dan and Serena hooked up recently. Who does Vanessa turn to get clarity on the situation? Juliet sees her floundering and gets on her Disney witch shit again, like, the problem is Serena. We both want to know if she really does have an STD and we can both get what we want. If we get her phone and go through her texts and see if she told Blair anything. At a party, Juliet gets Vanessa to steal Serena's phone from her bag at coat check, which would absolutely not work in today's day and age. Imagine leaving your phone in a bag at a party. Crazy scenes. So they get the phone and Vanessa finds nothing in it. She actually finds the antithesis of fraudulence, an email from Dan reiterating that nothing happened between him and Serena that night she stayed at the loft and that he cares a lot about Vanessa. When it's Juliet's turn to check the phone, she sends an email from Serena to her professor offering sex for grades, doing so without Vanessa knowing. Serena, lock your phone. I don't care, it's 2010. I had a lock on my phone in 2009, the brick. I was still locked. At this party, the Dean of Studies is there and she finds out about this email. She's like, Serena, you're insane. You're out of here. Serena's like, babe, what are you talking about? This is your email address, right? Yeah, but I didn't send that email. Maybe someone stole my phone. That's the thing about a good gaslight.
With enough smoke, who cares if there's really a fire?
Oh, that was excellent. Once again, Shakespeare, you're nothing. You might be something because of Gossip Girl. Seeing all this Dean shit unfold, Vanessa tells Juliet that she's going to tell Serena that they took her phone. And while Vanessa is walking away to tell Serena, Juliet slips the phone in Vanessa's bag. Juliet, because she's so kind, Juliet is so kind, she tells Serena, call your phone, maybe you can find it. So she does. And it goes off in Vanessa's bag. So now everyone's like, boo, it was Vanessa. Vanessa sent the email. She's evil, a classic Vanessa. The way in which she is always getting framed. It's so funny. Always the same formula too. Getting caught up in shit after trying to do the right thing, after doing the wrong thing. If I was Vanessa, I would have moved to another country by now. This shite is ridiculous. So not only was Vanessa framed, but Serena now thinks that Juliet is a real one because she helped her work out it was Vanessa. Vanessa tells Dan, was a moo, and leaves town for a while. At the end of the episode, Colin Forrester finds Serena drinking alone post-party. Don't make me drink alone. And the two start talking in a flirtatious manner. Uh-oh. Something that I took notice of this episode is that the character of Juliet is also a sort of vehicle for the writers to take the piss out of plots and relationships from the first 3 seasons. Like after the STDGG blast, Juliet's talking to Dan and Nate and she says, okay, it says you both slept with Serena and Vanessa and that Vanessa also slept with Chuck who slept with Blair? To which Nate says, all that's on Gossip Girl? Jenny is back. Yeah. As I said at the start of the video, Taylor Momsen is no longer a main character and is now instead a recurring character. Very upsetting, but at least she's back. Unfortunately, I don't really like the circumstances in which she's coming back and her role in the season because it's about Chuck and Blair, not so much about her. So yes, Chuck is waging war with Blair for meddling with My Life as Eva, and his latest and biggest attack is to let Blair know that he'll tell everyone the real reason why Blair banished Jenny from New York, because that would be embarrassing for both him and Blair, but he's willing to face the public reaction to him sleeping with Jenny, knowing that it will ruin Blair. Now Chuck gets Jenny an interview with Tim Gunn so that he can maybe be a reference for her application to Parsons. I yassed so hard when I saw Tim Gunn because I loved Project Runway, Not Even for Dinner with the Kushners. When Blair finds out that Jenny is back in the city for this interview, she's proper fuming. Remember, she all caps banished Jenny and told her never to return, and yet here she is returned. Like an ASOS package. Please have a look at this dramatic ass reveal clip. Miss Blair, I understand why she's upset with Jenny, but the way that she shifts all the blame from Jenny and Chuck to just Jenny is kind of bonkersville. Also, her beatdown on Jenny for coming back to town like months and months later is kind of insane girl behavior. So Jenny's like, look lady, let me do my interview. If all goes well, I will be gone girl. And I'll be out of your hair. So benevolent Blair gives her a day pass to go to this interview, but the rules are she can't do anything else. Chuck accidentally gets his hands on Jenny's design book, which means she has to go to the concierge at the Empire to get it back. When Blair finds out that Jenny left her house arrest, she goes feral mode and destroys Jenny's dresses for her interview with Tim Gunn, and it goes horribly. Jenny Humphrey and destroyed dresses are kind of like this. Like they just go together, you know? Waitress, can I get a revive? Blair is absolutely doing too much. There is an element of joblessness to this behavior. Chuck, who as we know is doing all this shit to get back at Blair, calls Dan and Jenny like, wait, there's a party that Tim Gunn's going to be at. Maybe Jenny can plead her case. Now, after the previous episode's flirtatiousness, Serena wakes up in Colin's bed, but apparently they just talked all night and there was no funny business. When she gets to college that day, she meets her new psychology of business professor, and it's Colin. Oh, Aria Montgomery, you have sons. So Serena stops this relationship, right? Wrong. She drops the class so that they can be together. Lily doesn't know that this is all going down, and while this is happening, she's like, Serena, oh my god, I love that you're being so study girl. So psychology of business girl, good for you, let's go, studious ladies. So Serena's like, yes, I didn't drop the class for a man. Then everyone's at that party that Chuck mentioned, and Lily sees Serena kiss Colin, and she's like, oh, okay, so you're actually whack and dumb. Cool. Jenny gets another chance with Tim Gunn, but realized that Chuck is the one that organized all of this, but why is he helping her? Well, he's not really. He's doing all of this to make Blair do crazy shit, because Chuck knows that Jenny is Blair's ultimate weakness. Jenny has had enough, and she decides to take the power back, and she herself texts Gossip Girl to say that she lost her virginity to Chuck. Dun, dun, dun! At the end of the episode, she goes back to Hudson and swears off the Upper East Side again because it pretty much turns her instantly demonic whenever she returns. But we know she'll be back. She's still technically a recurring character. What's interesting is, as annoying as Jenny was, the girls were tuned in. This episode had a 5 to 10% spike in viewership compared to the previous episode, which is definitely abnormal. Usually the viewership declines through the season and then spikes during finales, like mid-season finales and premieres. And this episode is none of those. The only difference is that Jenny's back. See, when you're an iconic legend. Also, I think this party is hosted by Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner. Yes, that is baseline crazy, but if we do an MMCU connection here, Jared Kushner's brother is Josh Kushner, who is married to Carly Kloss, who was in episode 1 of this season as Carly Kloss and was later the host of Project Runway next to Tim Gunn, who was in this episode. Not Even for Dinner with the Kushners. Nate goes to visit his dad in prison. Yeah, remember that? The captain, Mr. Fraud and Embezzlement himself. When he gets to the prison, Juliet is there, and he's like, what the hell? Why is my conniving and cartoonly villainous girlfriend here at the prison? Visiting her brother, of course. Troubled brother Ben was mad that the Sex for Grey's plan to expel Serena didn't work, but Juliet suggests that she can use her new closeness with Serena to find something even juicier and real for them to use. She tells Nate that she's at the prison because she Volunteers. Juliet is so kind. She also tells Ben about Nate's dad being in the same prison as him, and since he doesn't approve of Juliet's side quest of dating Nate, Ben has Nate's dad bashed up to send her a message. Gonna flag that now and mention it again towards the end of the season. In light of Ben's threat, Juliet breaks up with Nate but doesn't tell him why. And then we see her talking to Colin in his apartment, and he writes her a check? Why? In light of Lily being right, Serena goes to break up with Colin and rejoin his class, but they instead agree to just be friends during the remaining 7 weeks of his course. It's so funny that in the last episode, there was this whole scandal and drama about Serena fake emailing her professor to sleep with him. Turns out she was nearly actually doing that. Surprisingly, the Jenny reveal out in the open actually results in a truce between Chuck and Blair. They properly talk about the circumstances that led up to what happened with Chuck, Jenny, and Blair, and that it's not anyone's fault. It just sort of happened. Chuck's still whack though, don't piss me off. Episode 7 is Blair's birthday party. Do you remember season 1, episode 8, when it was Blair's 18th birthday? Well, she's turning 20 now. Oh, how the time flies. It's also Rufus and Lily's wedding anniversary, and Rufus is upset that Jenny isn't in town to celebrate. But remember, she can't be here because she turns into evil Upper East Side monster, and she's technically still banished. There is a ridiculous plotline where Serena and Nate get Blair and Chuck to sign a peace treaty between themselves, and if someone breaks the peace treaty, they get kicked out of the friend group. Blair can have fashion weeks if Chuck can have strip clubs, that kind of thing. It's ridiculous and far-fetched, but it's fun. Like, it's silly. It's self-aware silly. Like, the show knows that we know that none of this shit is realistic. Dan's idea of allowing Jenny back to the city is to get between Chuck and Blair by framing Blair for hooking up with Uncle Jack Bass again so that Chuck will help Jenny as revenge. But they've done this treaty, so the plan doesn't work. Dan's not a very good schemer. Then we see cartoon villain Juliet using the live updating Gossip Girl location map to track Serena. That is so insane. It's like Find My Friends, but Find My Enemies. But how is everyone just okay with that? I would sue Gossip Girl to the end of the fucking earth. Real Housewives of Melbourne, anyone? Juliet talks to her friend, Serena, who says that she's crushing on her professor, but they're playing it cool until the end of the semester. She doesn't tell Juliet who the professor is. Cartoon villain Juliet's like, oh, you need to jump on that before he loses interest. And then she runs off like the Hamburglar to text Ben about this new Serena information. Also on that, she keeps texting him. Thus, therefore, Ben has a phone. Pretty sure you can't have a phone in prison, ? Also, do they monitor the calls coming out of the prison? Like, surely they would overhear inmate Ben talking about all this ridiculous frame Serena shit and be like, maybe we need to be watching what's happening here. Ridiculous. More on that later. Oh my god, Serena's also an idiot, by the way. She and Blair worked out that Juliet was bad news and trying to pit them against each other, but now she's like, oh hey girl, I'm crushing on my professor. Actually, later on this episode, Blair says to Serena, do you have amnesia? Juliet isn't your friend. At least she remembers. Then we're at Blair's birthday party, which feels like the 500th consecutive episode featuring a party. As bad and repetitive as Gossip Girl Season 4 is, it feels self-aware that they're doing things like this. They know that people loved it when there was a bunch of hot, well-dressed people at parties being messy with interconnecting dramas. So mayhaps as audience members, we can engage in celebrations about that. AKA, let's celebrate that. Colin's at the party, Blair's birthday party, because she invited the dean and her favourite faculty members, right? Serena had commissioned Juliet to be her buffer so that she wouldn't jump on Colin throughout this party because she simply could not resist. Serena, control it. But then she ran into Nate, who offered to conduct buffering instead of Juliet so that he wouldn't have to see her at the party. But Juliet has weaseled an invite through Colin, but we don't know how they know each other yet. So everyone's at this party. Everybody in New York City. That's another Real Housewives of Melbourne reference. Including Dan, who got his grimy poverty-loft hands on the Chuck and Blair peace treaty and found something that he plans to use at Blair's birthday party. Also, he went behind Nate's back to get the peace treaty, so Gossip Girl says, Nate thought he and Humphrey were thick as thieves. Turns out Humphrey's a thief and Nate's just thick. That is some Shakespearean shit right there. Nate meets Colin and he's like, are you troubled, Ben? It's confusing because Nate phrases this as, I just saw you with Juliet. I figured if you're the guy she left me for, then your name must be Ben. We, the audience, are already confused about Ben. And now Nate being confused if Ben is Juliet's boyfriend or brother is even more confusing. Colin pulls Juliet aside like, I can't believe you've been seeing Ben. What is going on, girls? Nate and Blair hear Colin asking Juliet about Ben. So Nate confronts her saying, stop lying. Tell me what's happening. She says that Colin is her cousin, Nate says that Colin is dating Serena, and Juliet's like, what the hell? Colin is the professor that Serena's been crushing on? She calls Prison Ben and tells him the update, and he says to get footage of Colin and Serena together so that she can get expelled. Juliet is not McLovin this because rich cousin Colin pays for her entire life, her school, her rent, all of it. Also going to flag that for later, that Ben was just totally willing to throw his cousin under the bus. Then Robin, as in Dancing on My Own Robin, turns up with a video of Blair singing drunk karaoke at one of the after parties for her shows. What? Turns out this is Dan's plan. He found out about this off-limits embarrassing video of Blair in the peace treaty and wanted to screen it at her birthday to take down #chair on behalf of Jenny. Blair is humiliated and while running away knocks a waitress who knocks over Rachel Zoe, who then gets covered in chocolate.
I die.
Okay, the Rachel Zoe cameo firmly places this episode in 2010 for me. Dan admits to setting this all up, and Rufus is like, I can't believe you would stoop to their level. I can believe it. I can so believe it, babes. Also, the video of Blair singing isn't even that bad. Like, calm down. Serena pops into Colin's apartment to say that even though she wants him so bad, she's still going to wait until the end of the semester, but she gives him a little kiss. Unbeknownst to them, cartoon villain Juliet has set up a camera in generous cousin Colin's apartment and got them kissing on Candy Cam. Then Blair and Chuck rip up their peace treaty, say they hate each other, and have hate sex on a piano. So Blair and Chuck have been hooking up sneakily. What the hell is going on here? He looks like Princess Fiona, but not sneakily enough because Serena works out what they're doing. She's not having a bar of it. Blair tells her that she and Chuck are just enemies with benefits and that it's purely meaningless hookups, nothing more. Juliet collects her camera from Colin's apartment when he turns up to finish their conversation about Ben from Blair's party, saying she's the only one that thinks that Ben's not guilty. What did he do? What did I do? When Juliet threatens him with her knowledge of him and Serena, he's like, okay, well, I'll just cut you off from my funds if you keep saying Ben, don't piss me off. Later on, Dan sees Serena with Colin and confronts her about it. Literally no one thinks this relationship is a good idea, even if Serena's convinced herself that they're being classy by waiting until the end of the semester. She soon realizes that the whole thing is ridiculous and that she and Colin are victims of bad timing. There's too much they each have to sacrifice to be together. Nate goes to see ex-Juliet at her apartment to give her some of her stuff back. Remember, she was paying the doorman of a nice apartment building to let her into an apartment of someone who was out of town. It's not actually her apartment. A different doorman is working and he says there's never been a Juliet Sharp here. Rutroll. So Nate's realizing Juliet is not who she says she is. Now who's someone that also doesn't trust Juliet? Vanessa. She's trying to tell everyone that Juliet framed her during Serena's Sex for Grades gate. It's actually kind of ridiculous that everyone just believed rando Juliet over Vanessa. She's always struggling. So Nate goes to see Vanessa and he's like, hey, do you want to help me work out what the hell Juliet is hiding? Also, side note, you might forget this, but they have history. They dated for a bit. Everyone dated everyone. The only thing that's missing is if Nate dates Dan. While Nate meets up with Juliet to distract her, Vanessa gets Juliet's real address and breaks into her apartment and finds the pictures of Serena and Colin kissing and is like, oh my God, Psycho Juliet was right. Serena really is trading sex for grades. Even though Nate met up with Juliet purely for distraction purposes, she actually ends up telling him that she lied about the apartment because she didn't want him to know that she can't afford a nice apartment and has been lying about having money to fit in. She's actually telling the truth for once, and it's because she really likes Nate. Also, sorry, but I am always going to eat up a Gossip Girl plotline of a non-wealthy person pretending to be wealthy. It's giving Jenny in the early days. Now, as we know, Nate doesn't have a lot going on upstairs. Let's say that. And he's also obsessed with a second chance. So he's like, okay, cool, let's date again. Yay! He also tells Vanessa to stop the Juliet search, but old mate is in too deep with these Serena Colin photos. Juliet tells Colin that she's going to cut off all Ben communications because she wants to make things work with Nate for real. Blair and Chuck realize that they need to stop the casual hookups because they could never be casual. But it's harder to Chuck than Blair thought. Then guess what, everyone? We're at another party. I think it's the ballet this time. Nate's going with Juliet. After breaking up with Colin, Serena's going with Dan. When Colin comes to Casa Blair looking for Serena, saying that he quit his job as a professor to be with her, Blair's like, okay, come to the ballet with me. Let's go find her. After Vanessa found the photos, she was like, Juliet, you're so real and so right. Let's go ruin Serena's life. But Juliet's like, nah, babe, I'm done with the Serena vendetta. I'm going to delete the photos. But Vanessa has a copy. So she turns up at the ballet to show the dean. Colin finds Serena, tells her he quit, and then they kiss. Right in front of Dan. Bruh, he's mad as shit. When Serena tries to stop him from storming off, he says, tell me something, Serena. How far down the list did you get before you called me? Ooh. Serena Vanderwoodson is a menace and creates menaces through being a menace. Exhibit A, Vanessa. She's at the bloody ballet to show the Dean of Columbia, a school she doesn't even go to, mind you, pictures of Serena kissing a professor because she's sick of Serena getting away with everything. She's lost the plot fully. Like, girl, you do not even go here. Go make a film at NYU. When Juliet tries to stop Vanessa, Vanessa's like, oh, so you've had a change of heart because of Nate. Well, he's the one who told me to investigate your apartment. Let's face it, at the end of the day, you're an outsider like me. Between one of us and Serena, they will always choose Serena. So Juliet is back on board and goes to show the dean the photos. Blair pops up out of nowhere and drops the memory card in her champagne, says that she's the one in the photos kissing Colin, but that doesn't even matter anymore because he quit. Juliet is gobsmacked that Blair would do that to protect Serena, but Vanessa's like, babe, I told you they always protect each other.
I'm sorry. Who are you?
Exactly, Dean Ruther, exactly. So Juliet and Vanessa's plan didn't work and it in fact backfired. Vanessa, girl, my God, she's always in some form of trench. I can't. Colin's just like, what the hell, Juliet? I can't believe you set up a camera in my apartment and tried to ruin my life. You're cut off. Then Chuck, Blair, Serena, and Nate one by one beat down on Juliet, basically telling her she's over and she has to leave Columbia or they'll whack her with payback. Not gonna lie, it's really bad for her. Serena and Colin decide to end things. Too much drama. It would never work. This next bit, oh my God. Serena sees a missed call from Nate, but leaves Dan a message saying, hey, can we talk? Nate arrives at her house to talk to her and Dan pulls up soon after. Overhearing Nate tell Serena that things might have been different if Juliet wasn't around when Serena got back from Europe and that the two of us went through so much together. I really miss you. Give me a second chance. I won't let you down. Bruh, how are we back here again? Dan and Nate fighting over Serena. The end of this episode, bruh. Post Juliet takedown, just friends Chuck and Blair are kissing again. Then we see Juliet on a webcam saying, you don't know me, but a friend of ours thinks we share mutual enemies on the Upper East Side. She's talking to Jenny and Vanessa is sitting next to Juliet. Operation Takedown Serena is a go. This is so cartoon villain link up and it's so funny to me. Seeing all my apps linked up in the picture. Also, we established that Juliet is a class imposter, which is yes, but that she's also sneaky evil girl, which is why I was confused that there was Rent the Runway product placement in Juliet's apartment. If I was Rent the Runway and I was paying for my service to be featured in the show, after watching that episode, I'd be like, that's not what I wanted. Like, I don't think that's good press for them. Episode 9 is called The Witches of Bushwick. Turns out that once again, Serena has not made a choice between Dan and Nate, even though this time they literally arrived at her doorstep to ask who she wanted. So Dan and Nate decide, let's both ask Serena out on a date, and whoever she says yes to, that's who she wants. Jenny turns up at Casa Vanderwoodson and tells Lily that a girl named Juliet got in touch and wanted her help to take Serena down. How? Jenny's had a change of heart. Lily's like, oof, well, thanks for telling me, Jenny, you're legit saving lives. But then Jenny calls Juliet and says, everything's in place. She's also replaced the SIM card in Serena's phone so that they get all of her incoming texts and calls, and Serena won't think that her phone's been stolen or know that it's essentially been duped. Old mate Juliet was like, okay, now let's steal Serena's phone. And Jenny's like, no. None of that juvenile apprentice shit. I'm Jenny Humphrey. And in Humphrey Nation, we do things one step further.
I'd say you're pretty expert at this yourself. I just like visual aids.
Me! And you guys know that, just look at the screen right now. I just like visual aids. Dan and Nate send their text to Serena, and Jenny and Vanessa reply as Serena saying yes to both of them so that Serena can stand them both up and they'll hate her. Lily meets up with Juliet and says, listen here, you ratty little feral poor child. Leave Serena alone. Juliet says, I know that Colin isn't the only teacher Serena's fooled around with. Remember what happened at boarding school? Serena was a minor. Oh? Juliet's blackmailing Lily and saying maybe I'll take this info to the dean and she can see that this is a pattern of behavior and Serena will get expelled. So Lily pays Juliet off to keep quiet. After cousin Colin cut her off, she has to get those funds from somewhere, right? Juliet goes right to Serena like, nah. Your mum's paying me off. I know you got another secret. So what's the secret? Well, it's a book by Rhonda Byrne promoted by Oprah that Lily tells Rufus that the secret here is that Serena was involved with a teacher while at boarding school after the Shepherd wedding and the Pete Famine saga. Lily also says that at the time, she handled it. Meanwhile, Chuck and Blair are still hooking up again. Blair Blair is once again striving for another high society club / power position, this time as the face of Girls Inc., a position chosen by Anne Archibald. Welcome back to the stage, Anne Archibald. Can't say that I missed you. Now, Blair's closeness with Chuck is at direct odds with what Girls Inc. stands for. So Anne's like, what's going on there? And Blair's like, absolutely nothing. I hate Chuck. He could not possibly mean less to me. At the same time, Chuck's PR demon KC, remember her from the Tyra Banks Ursula drama? She's telling him that he needs to lean more into his bad boy image to build business back up at the Empire. So Chuck's like, well, yes, I am that guy for sure. Yes, I am. I'm not with Blair Waldorf. No. Mind you, they're actively still hooking up on the low, and during one such hookup, Chuck accidentally says, I love you. And Blair's like, oh. After Serena stood up both Dan and Nate, they both turn up at her apartment looking for her. She pulls up in a taxi like, hey guys, what's happening? What's going on? Why are you at my apartment? And they're like, right, you're the worst, but we're still obsessed. You have until midnight to make a decision of who you want. But would you believe Serena's rogues gallery is not done yet? They send Girls Inc. a copy of Serena's resume, so it looks like she's trying to get the role that Blair wants. Then little J, Miss Jenny, has an idea. Time for the 853rd consecutive party. This time Chuck is hosting a Saints vs Sinners party to help boost his bad boy image. Jenny saw on Gossip Girl what Serena's outfit was, so she and Juliet have turned up in the exact same outfit and are gonna wreak havoc. A classic little J self-referential plan. Remember, she looked exactly like Serena at the Masquerade Ball in season 1 episode 6, and that was a disaster. Blair tries to talk to Jenny Serena, but this Serena doesn't say anything, so Blair gets pissed. Juliet Serena randomly kisses Nate, and then goes and randomly kisses Dan, so now they both think that Serena chose them. Blair and Chuck are revealed to be together by Jenny Serena, who pulls down a dramatic ass curtain, so now Girls Inc. doesn't want Blair. When Jenny Serena is at the party doing her little stunts, we get this.
Serena, what are you doing?
That song is by the actress that plays Jenny in her band The Pretty Reckless. Take me, I'm alive, never was a girl with a wicked mind. You make me wanna 10 out of 10. It's actually such a good song. Then a GG blast goes out showing Serena kissing Dan and Nate. Real Serena arrives at the party and tries to explain that that wasn't her. And while this is happening, Juliet puts drugs in Serena's mask. Dan and Nate are mad as hell, saying that they chose for Serena. She's getting neither. Serena's like, FML, and leaves and puts her drugged mask on and starts stumbling around outside. Luckily, Juliet is there to help her out, put her in a taxi, and gets in the taxi too. Juliet is so kind. But then she takes Serena's phone and emails the dean that she's withdrawing from Columbia. Cartoon villain behavior. Side note, why is everyone just believing that Serena would do all this? She's an idiot, yes, but she's not that much of an idiot. Even though Blair being with Chuck was revealed to everyone and she thought she'd be okay with it, she's actually not. Because she realizes that when she's with Chuck Bass, that's it. She's his partner rather than her own person. She literally went, I'm okay. Actually, I'm not. She and Chuck agreed that if they're meant to be together, then eventually they will be. And I'm just watching like, oh my God, that is so lovely, isn't it? Whatever will be, will be. At the end of the episode, Juliet leaves drugged Serena passed out in a motel. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Also, we had an excellent quote from Juliet this episode. If you're not born with a silver spoon in your mouth, you want to eat, you have to work. You're insane, but you spilled. Thanksgiving episode. We know that Miss Girl First Name Gossip always saves some good shit for the Thanksgiving episodes, but truly nothing can beat the table scene from season 3.
Sweet potatoes are bland.
Exactly. And I told her. Thanksgiving is starting diabolically this year because no one can find Serena. That's because she's MIA and was dumped at a motel by supervillain Juliet. She wakes up and she's surrounded by pills and alcohol, pills and potions, if you will. She dials 911 and is whisked away to the hospital and her family's alerted. Serena van der Woodsen is literally in a hospital at least once per season. So everyone pulls up to the hospital and they're like, what the hell is going on? Did Serena OD? Was she doing drugs? Is the old Serena back? Remember season 1 and season 2, they would always refer to the infamous old Serena. When Jenny finds out that Serena's in the hospital, she calls Vanessa like, maybe we mega messed up here. The doctor talks to Lily about rehab and suggests an involuntary hold where Serena would be admitted if that's what she wants or not. Dan's there like, I don't think Serena would have done what she supposedly did to herself, so he's saying no. But Blair's saying, yes, this is all quite reminiscent of the old Serena. I think she needs rehab. When Lily sees that Serena's situation is all over the news and there's paparazzi outside the hospital, she decides yes to involuntary hold for Serena's health and her image. Off she goes to the Ostroff Center. Everyone welcome back Ostroff Center from season 1. Wow. Serena is so mad that she's there. She doesn't think that she OD'd, but she also doesn't remember anything from that night. She certainly doesn't know that Juliet drugged her. Speaking of Miss Juliet, she's doubling down on the lie. She tells Jenny that they're not responsible for whatever Serena did after she left the party, and then sends a picture of Juliet Serena doing coke to Gossip Girl. Serena sees this and she's like, whoa, maybe I was doing cocaine that night and who knows what else. This is a crazy, crazy, crazy level 10 gaslight. Now, knowing that Jenny is considering telling the truth about what she, Juliet, and Vanessa did, Juliet calls Vanessa and tells her to throw Jenny under the bus because she'll at least be forgiven. Vanessa never will. Insidious Disney stepmother Juliet strikes again. Yes, Vanessa, the problem is Jenny. Idiot alert, idiot alert. Vanessa's like, yep, good plan, Juliet, let's do that. And she goes and tells Rufus that this was all Jenny's idea. Jenny's just kind of like, yeah, like I was kind of responsible, but so were Vanessa and Juliet. This was a 3-person plan, babes. I didn't execute this all myself. Remember, Jenny was drugged by a psychotic waitress. Can I get a revive, Agnes, in season 2? So she would absolutely not be on board this drugging business. Juliet tells Ben about how the plan worked and she drugged Serena. And Ben's like, drugged Serena? You've gone too far.
That was not part of the plan.
Well, I made it part of the plan.
I'm kind of like poor Juliet. She's lost everything doing Serena shit on Ben's behalf, and now she's fully lost the plot and is all in, and Ben's like, you've gone too far. This is all so bold and the beautiful. I'm obsessed. Old mate Detective Dan is getting more and more suspicious that something went down that night. Nate, however, thinks that these are classic Serena antics to pull everyone back into her orbit. Dan visits Serena at the Ostroff Center, and she tells him that she meant to go to the Saints and Sinners party to kiss only him. She made her choice, and her choice was Dan. Jenny pulls up to Juliet's apartment to confront her, but she's packed up her shit and disappeared. No more appropriately unhinged recap of Serena Vanderwoodson on the wall. She does find the drugged mask though, so then she goes and tells Blair everything that she, Vanessa, and Juliet did. Because even though they're arch enemies, sometimes you gotta go to the pro. Blair obviously wants to go take down Juliet right away, but Jenny's like, babe, you were right, I need to not be in this city. So Blair goes to Dan and asks for his help getting revenge. This right here is a new team up, exciting things ahead, everybody. Jenny texts Vanessa that she told Blair everything and good luck getting out of that one, babe. So perpetually struggling Vanessa just up and leaves the city. Juliet, meanwhile, is blackmailing Lily for more money, saying, you keep sending me a check every month and Serena's secret will stay, well, secret. I'm obsessed with their commitment to dressing her like she's a 45-year-old CEO of a fintech startup, by the way. They age her up so much with the outfits that I never once felt like she was the same age as Serena and Blair. So Dan and Blair are working out how to pick up the Juliet trail. They decide to ask Gossip Girl if she knows anything about Juliet's whereabouts. Maybe she'll help them if they tell her that the Serena cocaine picture is fake. She hates misinformation. So they do, and she does. After all, Serena and Blair are her people, not Juliet. Let's just quickly go over that again. Dan and Blair couldn't find anything. They asked Gossip Girl. She emails them with information that neither of them knew. Okay, the address that Gossip Girl gives them is in Cornwall, Connecticut, which sounds like a made-up place, but I can assure you after a Google or a Bing that it is not. Yes, that's right, ladies. Let's celebrate that the ridiculous Bing sponsorship is back. In between Dan and Blair having their Sherlock Watson moment, we also have Serena having flashbacks, so we kind of get the whole truth in a pincer-like movement. Welcome back, tenant. So after sleeping with Nate at the Shepherd wedding and then the whole Georgina Pete Fairman death disaster, Serena runs away to Cornwall, Connecticut. Dan and Blair pull up in Cornwall in this flop car. Blair Waldorf in a car that isn't a limo or a private vehicle, you would not read about it. Also, this is kind of giving that movie Leap Year. Now, the address that Gossip Girl gave them leads them not to Juliet, but to Damien Dalgard, that nasty, nasty evil piece of shit from last season who messed with Jenny. Mind you, both Blair and Dan were genuinely confused where Gossip Girl had sent them when they pull up to this address. Just let that sink in. Blair realizes that Damien and Serena went to the same boarding school in Connecticut way back when. Damien also says that Juliet bought a whole bunch of drugs off him, and we know that she used those to drug Serena. I like how there's like one drug dealer in this show. Like Damien Dalgard stays busy. Flashback Serena gets nerdy Damien to do her homework and kisses him. He's clearly obsessed with her. We already knew this. When he came back to the city last season, he was like, Serena, do you remember me? I gave you one like this. In Cornwall. Blair, Dan, and Damien go to Juliet's house and find her mother there. And when Damien says that he went to boarding school in the area, she's like, oh cool, so you know Ben then. Ben was a teacher at the boarding school and was fired for sleeping with a student, which lines up timeline-wise with when Serena went back to New York. Flashback Serena has Ben as a teacher and starts meeting up with him outside of class to get extra help more and more. They go on a trip to a faraway library, Ben's car breaks down in the rain, and they go to an inn. He goes to fix the tire, but Serena's like, let's get a room. I know you've thought about it. She's like 15, mind you. I'm getting actual Pretty Little Lies flashbacks right now. Present day Serena tells her therapist that Ben was the only guy to ever say no to her, that they never did anything and they never spoke again, and he was actually a great guy. I don't know about that. He was getting a little bit too close to a student Milov. Juliet turns up at the Ostrov Center and tells Serena that she's been doing all this because Serena ruined her brother's life.
Why? Because of Nate? Or Colin?
No, you stupid bitch.
What Serena didn't know with the whole Ben boarding school situation was that Damien saw her and Ben talking at the inn and reported Ben. He was charged with statutory rape, and there was an affidavit signed by Serena, and his lawyer advised against going to trial because there was a witness, jealous Damien. Serena's like, I did not sign any affidavit. What are you talking about? Wait, hold on. I know what happened. My mother, Lily, forged my signature on the affidavit. So Serena just lets Juliet go and confronts Lily. Lily says, it's true. I signed the affidavit as you to try and save your future. And I used the rumor of you and Ben as leverage against your boarding school to transfer you to a good school here in the city when no one wanted to take you. But then it went too far and Ben got convicted and Lily couldn't take it back. Serena's like, you monster. Ben did nothing wrong. You put an innocent man in prison for 3 years. Now, ladies, since this is the mid-season finale, we have to end on some juicy points. Dan and Blair realize they're the only two in town for Christmas, and there's an inkling of a suggestion of an idea of them hanging out. And then the big juicy point is Serena arriving at the prison to visit Ben. Side note, Serena being like, Juliet, you may go, is so bonkers. Like, she drugged you, she dropped you out of Colombia, she actively tried to ruin your life and succeeded, and you're just letting her go because of what your mum did. Mind you, Juliet was breaking into the Ostrov Center looking like the fucking once-ler. Also, in hindsight, it's so funny that Serena was wanting to get with Juliet's teacher cousin while Juliet was actively trying to destroy Serena's life for ruining her teacher brother's life. Like, even if she didn't know it, Serena's singular mission was to destroy that family. Also, I really liked Dan and Blair working together. They're both quick and witty, so I feel like the writers had a lot of fun writing their scenes. Hopefully there's more. The song playing at the start of the mid-season premiere is Mark Ronson, Bang Bang Bang, and I really screamed, because that's my song.
It's a cold new year, Upper East Siders.
Turn it up a little bit more. Mark Ronson is kind of everything to me. I love that song. Any Ronsonators here? Ronson Hive? So Gossip Girl reports that Dan and Blair saw a movie together over the break. Yes, that's right. Realities imploded and timelines collapsed. When I say together, I don't mean literally sitting next to each other. They're in separate rows. But same session. But imagine the sentence, Dan and Blair saw a movie together in the context of season 1. So that's big. In other Blair news, she's got a new opportunity to scheme for. She's trying to be appointed as Indra New Year's intern. But Eleanor, Blair's mother of Eleanor Waldorf Designs fame, wants Blair to intern for her. After finding out that Indra is one of Eleanor's clients, she pretends to want to be Eleanor's intern to get close to Indra and then drops Eleanor. Eleanor catches on, Blair's Indra plans fall through, and Eleanor fires Blair. On the Vanderwoodson side of things, Serena is not part of Lily Nation right now. After the Ben prison reveal, she's like, hey mother, you're kind of nominated for the worst person alive right now. Over the break, Serena tried to find the judge who oversaw Ben's case to try and get him out of prison, but she had no luck. Turns out Lily was hiding the judge so that Serena wouldn't find them. Things are about to get double bad for Lily because she's also having drama with Bass Industries and Chuck. Basically, the long and the short of it is she's selling Bass Industries. Remember, she's currently the acting CEO because A, Chuck is ridiculous, and B, he disappeared in Prague for 3 months. There's also some added shit with Chuck not liking how vague Lily was when someone asked her when Chuck would be taking control of the company again. But yeah, Bass Industries is being sold, but Chuck doesn't want it to be sold. It's his father's legacy. So he enlists Serena's help to pretend to be Lily to get into Lily's safety deposit box at the bank to find something to blackmail her with, A, to stop the sale of Bass Industries, and B, to save Ben. Oh yes, blackmailing your mother. Very normal behavior. Mind you, while Serena's doing all this shit, she's standing Dan up. He had an internship interview and Serena told him that she would go with him, so he's waiting, and he misses the interview. This actually happens like 3 different times throughout the episode. The thing about Dan Humphrey is that he's gonna wait for Serena Vanderwoodson. So now he's upset that she apparently doesn't care about him and that it's always Serena first. Also, look at how ridiculous Dan's resume is. Bro has basically done nothing. At the bank, Serena finds the signed affidavit with her forged signature on it. Juicy blackmail material. If that got out, Lily would be arrested and charged with forgery. Lily tells Chuck that Bass Industries is actually having major money troubles. But if they sell now, they can decide how it goes down, which they won't be able to do later. Chuck's like, oh, you're actually right. Oh, turns out this whole time you've been doing what's in the best interest of me and this fucking company. Oh my gosh, imagine that. Lily says that she's got a potential buyer. 2 new character alerts. It's a double alert. First one is Russell Thorpe, who's introduced as Bart's old friend, and he's also mega rich, I think, from the property business. He usually operates out of Chicago, but he throws a huge party to let everyone know he's back in New York City. Chuck meets a woman who he assumes is Russell's secretary and he's his usual chauvinistic self, but then it turns out this woman is Raina Thorpe, Russell's daughter and advisor. She's our second new character. The Russell and Raina plotline is so soap opera and I do not like it. I mean, yes, Raina is Miss Face Card Supreme, but this plotline, I don't care. I'll just give you the facts as we get them. It's giving bare bones. At Russell's party, Chuck thinks that Russell is the potential Bass Industries buyer. But Russell says, hell no, I hated your father and he kicked me out of the city. If I knew that Bass Industries was for sale, I would have bought it cheap and dismantled it for parts. The potential buyer that Lily had falls through, which we find out was Russell's doing, and Russell announces that he's planning to buy Bass Industries. Also at the party, Dan and Blair are whinging about how bad their respective days were, and Dan's advice to Blair is to not deny being an evil dictator of taste just because that's what her mother is. That is fun. Blair apologizes to Eleanor and they both realize that maybe the ideal career for Blair is fashion magazine editor, which makes a lot of sense. Also, this was the biggest Eleanor plotline of the entire season, which kind of sucks because I really like her as a character. In a cast of predominantly jobless parents, she's extremely employed, and I liked her plotlines with Jenny in the earlier seasons. Oh well. Serena and Dan have a chat about all the shit she's put him through recently, and they decide that if they ever actually properly date again, that will be the last time they try, and that's not the vibe right now, so bye. Then Dan and Blair go to the movies together. Yes! I'm hearing a yes. Was the audience yassing just now, or have I echoed that within my mind? Now, Serena was going to blackmail Lily, but when she found out that Lily could literally go to prison, she was like, ooh, and backs off immediately. And she finds out that Lily actually got the judge to move up Ben's parole, which means he's out of prison. By the time we roll around to episode 13, Dan and Blair have been hanging out quite a bit. These two as friends is such a fresh change from the trend of guy and girl can't be friends without dating. They're also so excited because they've both landed internships. You get an internship and you get an internship. You don't though. Jobless. They're less excited when they realize they're both interning at the same place, W Magazine. It's them and 4 others. Their boss Eppley is highly strung Pilates coffee editor lady, and she's played by Caitlin Fitzgerald. Yes, Succession. Blair keeps trying to sabotage Dan and the other interns so that she's the last one standing.
Eppley asked me to pull the lemon Louboutins. Those are Marc Jacobs and their mustard.
Distracting Dan with things such as, oh look, it's Georgina's baby. There's a W Magazine party that night and they agree to have a competition to see who can bring the best author as a guest. The winner keeps the internship, no sabotaging allowed. Surprisingly, Blair doesn't try to double-cross Dan and plays fair, but Dan sabotages Blair. Jonathan turns up out of nowhere, bringing a book to Kaza Vanderwoodson saying Eric left it at school. Remember, Jonathan was Eric's boyfriend who hacked the Gossip Girl server in the season 2 finale. Don't piss me off. He tells Lily that Eric and Elliot broke up, and Lily's like, what? Eric's been saying that he's spending time with Elliot. I'm glad Eric and Elliot broke up because it was getting ridiculous how much Elliot was being referred to off screen like an imaginary friend. So Eric's saying he's hanging out with Elliot, but he's actually been hanging out with Damien Dalgard. Ugh. Now he is a cartoon villain. Serena has been hanging out with Ben. That is such an insane development. The way in which he basically made his sister ruin her life trying to ruin Serena's life on his behalf. Then he gets out and immediately starts hanging out with Serena. I get that he's actually mad at Lily and Serena is kind of innocent in all this, but what about Juliet? She's fucked it. Also, Serena is just kind of dumb as shit because what are you actually doing? Even fucking Rufus jumps in like, don't you think Ben is at least a little bit responsible for what Juliet did to you? Does that not bother you? Serena finds out that Lily tried to pay Ben $30,000 to leave town, but he told her he'd stay away for free. Take the money, you idiot. It's like Deal or No Deal. Take the money. No deal. Ben runs into Damien and says, I know you were the witness weakness in my sham case. And Damien's like, lol, don't care, move on, loser. Then Ben sees Damien meet up with Eric and dials 1-800-SERENA in a snitching capacity. Nate's dad, Howard, is out of prison on parole and living with Nate. And Nate's getting kind of pissed because all his dad is doing is partying. He wants him to get a proper job. And he does. He's now the financial advisor for Russell Thorpe, a known enemy of the Bass State. There was also a plotline for 3 episodes about Nate's mother filing for divorce from his father. But does anyone care? I'm going to sit here and wait for someone to care. Not a single soul. Moving on. And to top off all this Bass Thorpe drama, Chuck is sleeping with Raina Thorpe. Everyone is at this W Magazine party, which is the 5,000th consecutive party in this show. Something that I always appreciate about Gossip Girl is how they somehow manage to get every character on the roster to every event. Like, what business do Serena, Ben, Eric, and Damien fucking Dalgard have at a W Magazine party? Anyway, Ben and Serena see Eric buying drugs off Damien. Turns out Eric hasn't really been doing the drugs and has actually just been hanging out with Damien because he's lonely post-Elliot breakup. Blair goes off at Dan for breaking their pact and sabotaging her, and they have a literal physical fight and both get fired by Eppley. Dan realizes that while he got the internship through nepotism by a stepmother Lily, Blair didn't leverage her mother's connections and actually got in on her own merit and really wanted the job. He confesses to Eppley what he did to Blair, and Blair gets rehired. At the end of the episode, Ben pushes Damien against the wall and says, "You better leave the Vanderwoodsons alone or I'll fuck you up." Oh my god. The prison jumped out. In episode 14, after being threatened by Ben to stay away from the Vanderwoodsons, Damien has been hanging out with Eric even more. He is absolutely in cartoon villain mode. I guess we need that because previous cartoon villain Juliet is MIA. She's actually apparently off doing independent study somewhere. Anyway, Damien is playing Eric against Serena to get back at Ben. Damien tells Eric that Ben threatened him, so Eric tells Dan that they need to get Ben out of the picture because he's dangerous and threatened his friend. But when Dan finds out the friend is bloody Damien Dalgard, he's like, nope, I don't give a fuck. Ben is now living in the poverty loft with Dan because Rufus feels bad about what Lily did to him. Dan's just like, what the hell? Why is bloody ex-con Ben Donovan in my poverty loft? I would be mad as hell if I was Dan. Also even more annoying because we know Dan has unresolved feelings for Serena. And now this Ben guy who's kind of seeing Serena is living with him. So Dan's not having a bar of it, and I actually support him. For once. He even tells Ben that Serena is losing her family because of him. Serena, meanwhile, doesn't give a fuck. She said, I have to go piss off everyone. I have to go date a convict. Convict? Get this right. She tells Ben that being with him is worth risking her family. Is that so? Blair's boss Eppley is so stressed and highly strung, so Blair's master plan is to get Nate to sleep with Eppley to calm her down. Calm down! Then there's another party. The 17,395th consecutive party that somehow everyone is at. Ben's there with Serena. Damien, Eric, and Dan pull up. Damien tries to provoke Ben so that he'll violate his parole, but Ben won't engage. Ben is so kind. So Damien asks Eric to punch him in the face so he can frame Ben. Why is someone always getting punched when Damien Dalgard is at a party? Remember when he punched Nate in episode 16 of season 3? During Jenny fake lost virginity gate. Then Florence Welch starts performing. I mean, it's fierce, love her. There was some party planning drama with The Machine. Florence and The Machine getting stranded, but the show must go on. There's actually so many cameos this season and they're all name brand as themselves. We're getting Rachel Zoe, Florence Welch, Carly Kloss, it's all happening. After Damien's plan works and Ben's parole officer is like, hey, why are you running around punching people? Damien drops Eric. Eric's like, well shit, I thought we were friends. Magneto be like, no, diva. So Eric goes and tells Dan and Rufus, who's at this 17,395th consecutive party for some reason, that the Ben punch was a setup orchestrated by him and Damien. As punishment, Dan and Nate tell Damien's important politician father that his son is a drug dealer, so now Damien is toast. And Eric has no friends. Poor Magneto. Chuck cooks it with Raina because he's trying too hard to make her fall in love with him because he thinks that's the key to stopping Russell Thorpe from destroying Bass Industries. Him and Raina actually do have a lot in common. They were both lonely rich children running around hotels their dad owned. Raina also mentions that her mother left her and her father when she was really young, which is another thing in common with Chuck. God, remember that damn Chuck mother storyline from season 3? After finding out she has so much in common with Chuck, Raina's like, wait, Maybe Chuck's excellent and misses an important thought board meeting about buying Bass Industries to hang out with Chuck at the 17,395th consecutive party. When she realizes that Chuck was manipulating her into missing the board meeting, she's like, oh, bye. Blair and Chuck help each other this episode. Chuck helps Blair with the Epley thing and Blair helps Chuck get Raina back. I'm getting Raina back. Yeah. Wow, they're such good and healthy friends. Epley ends up quitting W Magazine and recommends that Blair gets her role. This is obviously great for Blair, but she's stressing because she's still a full-time student at Columbia and now she also has this important full-time job at W Magazine. Yeah, remember, they're technically all still at college right now. The thing to remember about these people is they're not going to be at college or doing their studies. So in episode 15, Blair is busy as hell. It's also Valentine's Day, but no one really gives a fuck. Blair's not celebrating, Chuck's not celebrating, Serena and Ben aren't celebrating because they just started dating and that would be a lot. Blair's so busy she doesn't even have time for Galentine's with Serena. It's a crisis. As part of her W Magazine duties, she has to source an it girl to follow her around for the day, and that includes for their Valentine's Day plans. So Blair suggests Raina instead of Serena because Serena doesn't have shit going on for Valentine's Day with Ben, and Blair doesn't know how serious things are between Raina and Chuck. She asks Serena to ask Raina to do this feature, but Serena tells Raina not to do it because it would make Blair sad to follow her around all day and see her celebrating Valentine's Day with Chuck. Blair finds out that Serena told Raina to cancel, but not why. Ben gets a job as a cater waiter through Dan because who can forget Dan's cater waiter era? But Ben doesn't want to tell Serena that he's a cater waiter, so he lies and says that he's tutoring. The really interesting thing here is I truly could not care less about Ben right now. The Ben plot and the Chuck Raina Russell plot are not giving. So for me personally, it's all hinging on Blair and W Magazine right now. Dan's trying to get some writing work out, so he contacts his one contact at a magazine, Epley, but he finds out she's quit. So he has to go through the new Epley, aka Blair, but she won't do it. She says, we are not friends. Just because we went to go see a movie or 5 together does not mean that I'll go out on a limb for you. Let's check in with Chuck. So Russell Thorpe is about to bid to buy Bass Industries and he's in full cartoon villain mode saying that he's going to dismantle it for parts. Chuck finds out through Nate's dad Howard that dismantling Bass Industries for parts is not actually the most profitable decision. So it looks like Russell hated Bart to such an extent that he's doing all of this. So why did he hate Bart so much? Turns out Russell dated Lily for a bit before she dated Bart, so that's definitely part of it. To show Russell that he's a baller and that he's valuable to him, Chuck's like, oh, easy, I can just get the Bass Industries board to kick Lily out of the company. So he does, and they do. She's out. Little does he know that Lily being out of the picture is actually better for Russell's plan to destroy Bass Industries. Also, Chuck's throwing a party to prove that the Bass name has value. Our 17,396th consecutive party, mind you. Blair pulls some strings to get Ben's catering company to cover Chuck's party so that she can stage a run-in for Serena and record it for W Magazine to get back at Serena for telling Raina to back out of the profile. So in this party, Chuck's organized some elaborate display of affection to show Raina how much he likes her. Then Lily confronts Chuck, and when Raina sees how Chuck talks to Lily, she's like, oh, no, don't even think about it. We're done. Serena comes at Blair like, what the hell? Why did you just do that to me? Blair brings up the Raina pullout situation. Serena explains why she did that to protect Blair from getting her feelings hurt from seeing how much Chuck likes Raina. And Blair's just like, well, that's great, but he actually doesn't like her at all. In fact, I'm going to go talk to him about it right now. She and Dan find this special room Chuck made for Raina, and then Blair overhears Chuck begging Raina to take him back. So she's like, well, shit, Chuck really does have feelings for her. This arm is doing a lot right now. Then Dan comforts her like this, and you guys are going to hate me, but I'm really enjoying these two together. Before you get mad at me, that's my current truth. It can change, and it probably will. Serena and Blair make up, thank God. That's actually something I like about this season. Serena and Blair don't see eye to eye all the time, but at least they're not full on brawling like before. Blair tells Dan that not only did she read the writing that he gave her, but she liked it and forwarded it onto Vanity Fair for him. Then they watch Rosemary's Baby together while on the phone. I screamed a bit. I'm going to be real and truthful. I did scream a little bit. This is so cute to me. It's kind of goals. Why lie? It's what I want. Why can't I have that? At the end of this episode, Damien pops up again, telling Eric that if he doesn't help him get out of the shit that Dan and Nate put him in by telling his father about his drug dealing, he'll spill the beans about Lily and the affidavit. Eric had told him about that when he thought they were friends. Rutroll Raggy for real. Episode 16, and it is now Eric's birthday, but he is not in a celebratory mood. Demon Damien Dalgard is blackmailing him into picking up cocaine shipments. Serena and Ben had patched things up since the catering debacle, but when they find out about Eric's situation, Serena's like, I'm going to find a way to fix this. But Ben's like, why not let Lily take the fall for what she's done to him? I don't like that. Don't come for Lily Vanderwoodson. You're nothing. Miss Blair is way over her head with work and study and the Chuck loves Raina not me crisis. She goes Guru mode and tries to get her minions to run errands for her, but everything starts going to shit. Dan tries to help and actually writes a blog on Blair's behalf, which was really nice. But it all implodes anyway and she gets fired/quits from W Magazine. But what we got out of that was Dan and Blair getting a little bit closer. Chuck and Lily have a big fight following on from last episode's drama of Chuck getting the Bass Industries board to kick Lily out. But this fight is extra spicy. Lily defends Russell and then slaps Chuck. Wait, what? Well, it was actually staged so that Russell would see it. Why? So that Russell can organize a meeting with Lily to conspire against Chuck while Chuck and Nate break into his office to find some info they can use. Howard was fired by Russell for leaking contents of an email to Chuck, but he managed to sneak out his keycard, which Chuck and Nate used for this break-in. Their rifling reveals who Russell's investor for the Bass Industries bid is, and they invite him to Eric's 18th birthday party, which is our 17,396th consecutive party, yes. At the party, Eric is an active participant in the Trench Olympics, trying to stay on top of this Damien situation. After a botched cocaine delivery, Damien is demanding $100,000 from Eric, so it's super convenient that he now has access to his trust fund. Side note, the concept of a trust fund is so crazy to me. Like, you just suddenly have money accessible because you're 18. You didn't even do anything to get it. You just aged richly. Anyway, Lily finds out about this and she's like, shit. This is all my fault. And then she finally admits for the first time that what she did with forging Serena's signature was wrong. Apologies are now. Demon Damien Dalgard gets his $100,000 check and he's walking away like the Hamburglar, like, he, I'm so evil and excellent at it. And then Ben pulls him aside and says, give me that check back. And if you ever use that Lily information, I will have you killed. And it's not my first time organizing a hit. I had Howard beaten up. And guess who overheard Ben admitting to having Nate's dad beaten up? Vanessa. Oh. She came back to apologize to Dan for the Serena ridiculous, but he didn't want to hear it. And now she's overheard this reveal. That is so classic Vanessa. She's always just involved in shit. Blair tells Dan that she's super bummed about her career failing because she wanted to become her own successful person before going back to Chuck. Then they watch a movie together at the Poverty Loft and Blair falls asleep on Dan. Oh my God. I'm alright with a slow burn. Chuck spoke to the investor at the party and told him that Russell's plans to dismantle Bass Industries don't even make sense. So the investor's like, okay, I'm listening. And he actually ends up backing Chuck instead of Russell. A big blow for Russell Nation. But then again, where are the members of Russell Nation? Population 0. Also, the Chuck Raina shit is about to get even more ridiculous. Chuck asks Nate to keep Raina busy so that he can come and win her back, which doesn't work. But instead, Nate and Raina start having feelings for each other. Oh my God. OMG. In a sense, you know? Sharing is caring, I guess. Fresh out of a blackmailed $100,000, Demon Damien Dalgard pulls up to Russell Thorpe HQ and says, hey King, if you have a cool $100,000, I have some very interesting information for you. In episode 17, Chuck is celebrating that he's defeated cartoon villain Russell and he's throwing a party, the 17,398th consecutive party. But see, the thing is, he might be celebrating too soon. After Damien told Russell the Lily info, Russell started sending Pretty Little Liars A-esque messages like this jumpsuit with a note. Can you imagine if there was an actual canon Gossip Girl Pretty Little Liars crossover event? I mean, they were airing at the same time by this point, so it could have happened. I do think that society would be completely different if that crossover had happened. I think that we would have progressed so much further by now. We would have invented light speed space travel 5 years ago. Anyway, Chuck thinks that Ben is the one that leaked the Lily info to Russell. And then bloody Vanessa turns up at Casa Vanderwoodson to tell Lily what she overheard about Ben attacking Howard. So Chuck and Lily are doing the maths like 1 + 1, maybe in this situation it equals 2. Maybe Ben's the bad guy. Also, Vanessa says this insane sentence, which kind of made me levitate at how ridiculous it is. Serena told her doorman to tell me she wasn't home, even though that I saw that she was on Gossip Girl. What? I fear Gossip Girl might be too powerful with these fucking live updating status maps. Ben's mum is in town and she hates Serena. Serena's just trying to be like cool, nice girlfriend for the guy who went to prison for 3 years because her mum forged her signature. And Ben's mum is just like, Benjamin, you need to clear your name first and then you can chase Miss I have to go around New York City. But Ben clearing his name would involve Lily getting in mega trouble RE forgery. So Ben's like, no, I won't do it. Ben is so kind. Vanessa and Lily tell Serena their updates and Serena's like, no, Ben wouldn't do that. Ben is so kind. But then when she looks for the signed affidavit evidence in her room, she can't find it. 'Cause he took it, maybe? Meanwhile, Blair has been sneakily making plans with ... Dan. Guys, this is so explosive. They're both feeling some type of way about this. When Dorota finds out that Blair's been hanging out with Dan and asks her about it, Blair's just like, I legit don't care about him. Watch me not turn up to our plans. But at the same time, Dan's been talking to Rufus about it, and when Rufus suggests that maybe Dan has feelings for this mystery woman that he's been hanging out with, Dan's like, oh no, why don't we get lunch right now? Which means that he's not going to his plans that he made with Blair. He doesn't care, but because they both stood each other up, they actually ran into each other.
Why aren't you at MoMA meeting me?
Why aren't you at MoMA meeting me?
I'm standing you up.
It's fun. Because they anticipate everyone going wild if it came out they'd been hanging out, Dan and Blair come up with an idea to tell Gossip Girl to put out that a big tip is coming, and then they'll reveal their friendship. So everyone's like, oh, that's it? And when they're talking about said big tip, they say this.
You getting traded for a hotel.
Or you raising Georgina's baby by a Russian mobster.
I love it when this show references ridiculous in-show plot points, and it seems to happen a lot with Dan and Blair. Now for the 17,398th consecutive party. Serena asks Ben about the affidavit, and he reckons he didn't steal it, but then she asks him about Howard, and he's like, oopsie. Ben's mother confronts Lily, iconically convenient that they're both at the 17,398th consecutive party. Turns out Ben's mother is the one who stole the affidavit for Russell. He contacted her and told her how she could clear her son's name. Russell tells Lily and Chuck that now that he has this evidence, they have to sign the company over to him or he'll leak the affidavit. But Lily Vanderwoodson, the queen that she is, she doesn't give a fuck. You want to know why? Because she already called the DA to come get her. Yep, that's right. She's turning herself in so this info can't keep being used against her family. Also turns out Raina overheard Russell threatening Lily and she's like, oh my god, Daddy dearest, you're literally a cartoon villain. I can't believe this. You're horrible. Love, love, love how integral to the plot Lily is. Lily plots always eat and Kelly Rutherford can act circles around most of the other cast, so it's fantastic to me. Ben breaks up with Serena. He says that the Russell-Lily connection probably came through Damien, who he literally threatened to kill, and that he needs to let all of this go and move on. So he and Serena end on good terms, but I cannot stand him, sorry. The way we're supposed to end this Ben chapter like, wow, Ben was such a nice guy. No, he wasn't. He had Howard bashed and smuggled a phone into prison so that he could get his sister to ruin Serena's life, organizing the bashing when Juliet wasn't doing exactly what he wanted. He was also super willing to throw cousin Colin under the bus to destroy Serena. Then business casual Blazer's sister Juliet ruins her own life doing his bidding. And then when he gets out of prison, he immediately starts dating Serena. If I was Juliet, I would be mad as hell. Anyway, because of Lily's confession, Ben's record is cleared, but I think he should serve time for being annoying. Russell explains to Chuck why he was so willing to sacrifice his relationship with his daughter just to destroy Bass Industries. He says Raina's mother Avery was killed in the insurance fire that Bart intentionally set. Remember that? Season 1, episode 10? Dan got close to Bart Bass to find some juicy tea to write about and found out that one of Bart's first developments burnt down and Bart collected the insurance money, but scandalously someone died. Russell's saying that Avery died in that fire. Chuck's like, no way. Bart was a lot of things, but he wasn't a murderer. Ding, ding, ding. My Chuck spiral detector's going off. Also, Raina and Nate are now just full-on dating. The way Raina is just the Vanessa of season 4 in terms of ridiculous dating patterns, even though we technically do have name brand Vanessa, but she's literally a shell of season 1 to 3 Vanessa. The end of episode 17 is so explosive. Who cares about Bart Bass maybe killing someone? This is so much more exciting. Dan and Blair talk about if there's potentially anything between them, which would explain why they enjoy hanging out with each other so much. So Dan's like, why don't we kiss and see if we feel anything? And then they kiss. I need you all to remember that this show was airing weekly. So it was Gag City out there waiting to see what would happen with Dan and Blair. Cannot overstate how huge it was. There was also a 2-month gap between episodes 17 and 18, so the girls were going feral. So where does this Dan-Blair kiss leave us? Well, Dan's waiting for Blair to text him, feeling like he really likes her, and Blair's hiding away in bed. In the midst of Dan and Blair trying to work out what their feelings are, Chuck's decided that he wants Blair back. Blair tells Dorota that the kiss made her realize her true feelings, that she wants to be with Chuck. So we established last episode that Lily has turned herself in RE forgery. Well, now she has to wait and see what the consequences are going to be, and her mother Cece and ex William Vanderwoodson are in town to support her. Yes, William Vanderwoodson of Lily fake cancer fame. Cece isn't the only Rhodes in town, because Cece's also invited Lily's always mentioned never seen older sister Carol Rhodes to the city for a photo shoot. The infamous Aunt Carol from Miami. Also, remember that season 2 episode 24 backdoor pilot about younger Lily, played by Brittany Snow, and her sister Carol, played by Kristen Ritter? What a time. Current day Carol Rhodes is, como se dice, a lot. Let's just say that. I'm not a fan. The photo shoot in question is for a modern royalty photo book, and Lily's glad to have something to distract herself from the press and reports about her arrest, but she's not happy that Cece invited Carol. We also meet Charlie Rhodes, Carol's daughter, Lily's niece, and Serena's cousin. Charlie's story is that her mum doesn't know that she snuck into New York, and she says that Carol has kept her away from this world because she thinks it's toxic and that toxicity is contagious. Serena meets her and she's like, "Oh sis, let me take you around for the day. Let's go shopping so you can see what you're missing." When Carol finds out that Charlie's also in New York, she's proper fuming. "You're gonna catch the toxicity, babe." She's giving 5G radiation Facebook comment section mum. Carol tells Lily, "You may think it's okay for your kids to have superficial values, but I left this life to raise Charlie in the real world. Charlie and I are leaving." "Okay, lady, leave." Lily solos you any day. When Lily's out of earshot, Serena overhears Cece and Carol arguing.
I send you a check every month. You will stay for this photo.
So I guess these superficial values aren't that bad when you're benefiting from them. At the modern royalty photo shoot, Chuck is being shot solo because he's giving orphan. He's serving orphan. He finds out about Blair and Dan's kiss and orchestrates a plan for Dan to be embarrassed at the photo shoot in front of Blair so that she can see that he's still not one of them. Blair gets the ick that Chuck did that, saying that she'd come to the photo shoot to tell him the kiss made her realize that he's the one that she wants, not Dan. That the kiss meant nothing. Saying this right in front of Dan, by the way, who's actively crushing on Blair post-kiss. But now he's like, right, yes, the kiss meant nothing. Yes, I agree. I was about to say that. You just beat me. I was about to say that. But yeah, after Chuck's stunt with Dan, Blair's realized that even though she's now ready for him, he's still not ready for a real relationship with her. Lily finds out that Carol only came to do this photo shoot because Cece was threatening her monthly checks, not because she actually cares about Lily. Carol reveals to Lily that she was hiding accepting the money from Cece because she didn't want to admit that her life had gotten to the point where she needed Cece's handouts. Blah, 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 they make up, but the Vanderwoodson photo gets messed around a bit, but they all end up doing a photo together back at home, and the photo looks like this. Nah, what is that? It's giving Angela Anaconda. Also, no Jenny and random cousin inclusion. Flop. Dan and Blair talk about their kiss again, saying that it most definitely absolutely meant nothing, and Dan tells Blair that her prince is waiting for her somewhere, which is an interesting choice of words considering what's about to happen. Blair tells Dan that his princess is waiting for him too, and she looks at Serena. In the grand scheme of things, the Blair-Dan kiss is the last piece in the ridiculous love dodecahedron that is Gossip Girl. And guess who overheard Dan and Blair talking about their kiss? The person whose entire job this season is to overhear things and use the information incorrectly, Vanessa Abrams. Vanessa leaves Serena a voicemail telling her what she just heard. I bet that's gonna end well. At the end of the episode, guess who steps out of a car in New York City carrying the shoe that Blair left in Paris? Prince Louis! Why is he British? Serena hears Vanessa's voicemail. She's like, "Oh, nah, that's not on." Not X and queening out. So she and newly New York resident cousin Charlie start looking for evidence of Dan and Blair hanging out to see if Vanessa was telling the truth. Charlie stayed in New York when Aunt Carol went back to Miami. Blair's fully moved past Dan because a literal prince has turned up in town to give her shoe back. Okay, Cinderella. But Prince Louis is doing this all on the low. No one can know that he's in the city. His parents don't approve of him pursuing Blair because she's a nasty, stinky, poor commoner. Oh, how the turntables. Meanwhile, Dan has landed a riding gig. He has to follow a prince who's sneaking around the city. Of course this is happening. There's this whole thing about Serena and Charlie following Dan, who's tracking Prince Louis. So to Serena, it looks like Dan and Blair are hanging out. I've definitely mentioned this before, but I hate miscommunication plot lines. Enough. Anyway, Dan soon discovers that Louis is in the city to see Blair, and he drops the piece. Dan is so kind. Serena also finds out. She's like, oh, fierce. That moment when you thought Oomph was hooking up with your ex, but she's actually dating a literal prince. Here's Charlie tracking Dan on Gossip Girl's live updating mobile spotted map. Girl, please. Blair comes up with a plan to hide the fact that Louis is in New York to see her by pretending that she's dating Dan, so then Louis' parents' royal minions will be like, oh, okay, she's taken, so Louis not here to see her. Cousin Charlie catches wind of Dan and Blair conspiring, so now she and Serena are once again looking for #dare evidence. Blair and Dan stage their kiss in front of the royal minions, but Charlie also sees it and records it and sends it to Gossip Girl. The Louis plan works, but then Dan and Blair have to explain to Serena that it was all staged, and she's like, okay, well, what about the previous kiss? And they're like, Serena tells Blair, the only appeal Dan ever had to you was that he was mine. This girl is insane. She needs psychological help. Sent her back to the Ostrov Center. Charlie apologizes to Dan about recording the kiss and says that Serena only asked her to do it because Vanessa tipped her off about Dan and Blair. So Dan tells Vanessa, we are never, ever, ever being friends again. I have many thoughts on the Vanessa arcs this season, but I'll say them when I get to the end of the season. Lily is now facing the consequences of her forgery. She's under house arrest. Guys, there's just something about a rich lady wearing an ankle monitor. Her friends don't want anything to do with her because she's giving felon, but babe, that's the price of forgery. Anne Flop Archibald tells Lily to her face at the 17,399th consecutive party that the girls, capital T, capital G, were happy to see Lily's downfall.
Oh, and you may want to adjust your dress. Your monitor's showing.
Whoa! I just know the writers were watching Real Housewives to really capture that dynamic. In Thorpe B-plot news, Raina has decided that she's going to look for her mum, who left her and her father when she was young, because she's starting to doubt if her father told her the truth about that situation. Chuck catches wind of Raina's search. Remember, he just found out that his father Bart might have killed her mother Avery. So he's like, oh, I need to shut this shit down before she finds anything. That moment when your ex, who's now dating your best friend, starts looking for her mother, who your father might have killed in a fraudulent insurance fire. So Raina's searching and she finds a lady named Avery Thorpe who might be her mother. And Chuck's like, wait, maybe she is, and my father isn't a murderer. So Raina, Chuck, and Nate go see her, but she's not the mother. You are not the mother! Chuck's private investigator manages to source audio from the night of the fire, and we can hear Bart arguing with Avery, and then she goes back in the building, and then the building is on fire. Not great news for Bart Nation, but again, who's part of Bart Nation? It's a bunch of bots. Dead internet theory. Louis and Blair decide to go public, and the paparazzi go crazy. Act like an angel dressed like crazy. All the girls are girling. Literally. This is so fantastic for Blair. The amount of times Blair has mentioned wanting to be a princess. Well, congratulations, sis. You got the job. In episode 20, Serena Vanderwoodson is exhibiting jobless behavior. Remember, you can have a job and be jobless, and be unemployed and not be jobless. It's in the MMCU pre-reading. After her Toronto International Film Festival, her tiff with Blair about the Dan kiss, and now Blair having the fling of the century with a literal prince, Serena's feeling jealous and a little bit mad. So she starts sowing the seeds to ruin things for Blair and Louis. What she needs to be doing is going to college and focusing on her damn homework. Blair's plan to make Louis' parents like her is to win over the press. But then Louis' mother Sophie pops up in New York and she's like, ew, Louis, you can't date an American, gross. Also, you're about to be married. Blair's like, huh? What do you mean married? Louis explains that it's basically some royal shit. He got to get married. Louis got to get that ring out, you know? He's not engaged per se, but his parents want him to marry one of 10 candidates they've picked. They've flown these ladies to New York and he has to pick tomorrow. But his plan is to get Blair on the list for this party and then pick her. They get engaged and then they can just date with rings on. It's basically Married at First Sight Royal Edition. Also, turns out the person who contacted Sophie to tell her about Louis and Blair was Serena. And she also printed out a bunch of Blair-related Gossip Girl posts for Sophie to peruse. Jobless. After hearing the audio of Bart and Avery, Chuck is full spiral. You won't find him without a glass of something. There's an interesting directorial choice in this episode. Every frame of Chuck is on an angle, I guess to show that he's not coping. Even if he's talking to someone, their parts are normal, but when it goes back to Chuck, he's on an angle. He's disoriented, babe. Chuck's PI also found a note from Avery saying, you know how much you mean to me, but I can't do this anymore. Looks like Avery and Bart were having an affair. but she was going back to Russell. Rutroll, Bart Bass motive. Chuck and Nate keep trying to dissuade Raina from digging into her mother's past, but it's not working. And Raina's getting annoyed with boyfriend Nate that he keeps deflecting every time she brings her mother up. Nate wants to tell Raina the truth, but 30 Degree Chuck is like, no! But he tells her anyway. We now begin Lily's off-screen house arrest era. She's always in her room buying clothes online or something like that. Jobless Rufus is enjoying having her around, but needs something to do. So it's great timing that his old record label wants him to produce for a new indie band. Meanwhile, Dan and 18-year-old cousin Charlie have been hanging out. She's crushing on him, but he's like, no, we're just friends. Vanessa sees Charlie kissing Dan on the cheek and then later reading a book with a chapter titled How to Go From Just Friends to Boyfriend and pops up like a bloody Disney villain like, hey, you don't know me, but I don't want Dan to be with Serena or Blair, so I'll help you get him. What? Yet another example of Vanessa overhearing or seeing something. All she's doing this season is seeing shit happen and sneaking around. At least the writers acknowledge it because Vanessa says, I realized that lately I've exposed more secrets than Julian Assange, but I'm leaving soon. I got a scholarship to study abroad, so come the end of this semester, I'll be out of everyone's hair. Also, here's Charlie binging pierogies. Then the band that Rufus is potentially producing for is coming to the Poverty Loft to meet him, and he invited Dan and Charlie, so Charlie's like, oh, sick. Let me organize the pizzas for the party. I'm so resourceful. Dan, look at me. Look at me, I'm so resourceful. But then she overdoes it and gets fancy catering, and Rufus turns up like, oh, that's not. This is an indie band. They want pizza. They won't work with me if they see that I'm gentrified. Charlie's like, oh no, I messed up. I was just doing what Vanessa told me to do. Dan's doing the maths like, oh, that nasty rat Vanessa sabotaged Charlie because Charlie has a crush on me. Charlie goes and tells Vanessa, lol, I set you up and lied and told Dan you sabotaged me. Eat shit, you're nothing, Dan's mine. Okay, so Charlie's unhinged. And I'm kind of like, thank God for that. Let's get crazy again. Let's get... Like, why am I kind of missing Juliet right now? So Louis told his mother Sophie that he'll only go to this pick your fiance party if she agrees to meet Blair. Blair and Sophie are butting heads because Sophie read all of Blair's greatest hits from Gossip Girl thanks to Serena, but Blair says she's changed and gets that party invite. The 17,400th party, yes. Drunk 30-degree angle Chuck finds out about this party and turns up and ultra embarrasses Blair, introducing himself to Sophie as the love of Blair's life and then causing a fucking ruckus, a fuckus. So it's kind of looking like Blair's royal situationship is toast because Sophie tells Louis to break up with her. But Louis is like, nah, Fifth Harmony, that's my girl. She's the one I want. And then he proposes to Blair. So they're engaged now. Blair also tells Serena that she knew Serena was the one trying to set her up, but it's all water under the bridge now because look at this rock. Blair goes to Chuck's penthouse to give him the courtesy of telling him she's engaged. Very charitable of her, by the way, because the way he was acting at the Pick a Fiance party, girl. When Blair walks into the penthouse, the camera tilts to show she's entered his topsy-turvy world. Wow. Anyway, Chuck gets mad, yells, "You're mine!" throws her around, punches a glass window, and the glass shards cut Blair's face. She runs away. He's actually a disgrace. I do not care that your father is potentially a murderer. You suck. Oh my God. And the people being like, he's just a tortured soul. Should we go through everything he's done? I was reading some fan forum comments and people were like, he didn't hit her. It's fine. He was just devastated and his temper flared up and he punched a window. Right. Because that's normal. So Blair Waldorf is engaged. Eleanor and Cyrus throw her an engagement party during which Blair is working overtime to get Louis' mother Sophie's approval. The 17,401st party. There's actually two parties this episode because there's a constant St. Jude fundraiser directly after Blair's engagement party. There's also this bonkers vitamin water placement where Eleanor is the judge for a vitamin water design competition. Like, oh my God, can I get a revive? I'm literally begging you. Vanessa tells Serena, you didn't have to get cousin Charlie to tell Dan that I set her up, you mole. Serena's just like, yeah, whatever, Vanessa. But it's kind of giving her pause. Pause up, little monsters. Meanwhile, Charlie has been hanging out with Dan, and we find out she takes some kind of medication, and that the last time she stopped taking it, she lost the plot. So obviously she's stopped taking the meds again. Because otherwise, why would they have told us that? Dan invites her to the constant St. Jude party, but she doesn't have anything to wear and doesn't have any money to buy anything. So she asks Serena for help. Serena's like, that's weird. Why don't you have access to your trust fund yet? I'll sort that out for you, dearest cousin Charlie. Charlie asks Serena for advice about going to this party with Dan, and Serena says, lipstick lasts longer, but glass is more fun. Dan loves to dance, but he's terrible, so no laughing. And your feet won't hurt as long as you have just the right amount of champagne. Other than that, just be yourself. That's what I did at Cotillion, and Dan and I had the most magical night ever. Also, the way in which Dan is going out with Charlie now. Dan Humphrey befriends with a woman without being romantically interested in her challenge failed. Serena, Blair, Vanessa, Hilary Duff, now Charlie. He really does love to keep it in the family, doesn't he? After finding out the truth from Nate, Raina's decided that she needs to destroy Chuck and has invited cartoon villain Jack Bass back to town. Also, after smashed Glassgate, Nate has fully ditched Chuck and is now Team Raina. So Chuck has no one. So why is evil Uncle Jack Bass agreeing to take nephew Chuck down? Raina tells him that he'll be in charge of the new Bass Industries, and we all know how much he wants to be in charge of Bass Industries. Anyone remember Traded for a Hotel Gate? Blair sees that evil Jack Bass is back in town and rushes to tell Chuck. And Louis finds out that Blair's been making multiple visits to Chuck. Remember, she also went to see him directly after getting engaged. Also wild that Chuck could treat Blair as terrible as possible and she'll still be trying to save him. So Louis turns up to see Chuck and tells him to stay away from his fiancée. He also sees Chuck's bandaged hand and puts two and two together with Blair's scar on her face, and later asks her why she's protecting Chuck, and she says it's because she doesn't want to embarrass him. Bro, this Jack Bass plot is kind of messy, so I'm going to steamroll it. Russell's back in the picture telling Jack that Raina's plan doesn't go far enough, and Jack's like, cool, Chuck's already on the brink because of Blair's engagement. I'll just push him a little bit further and then we can get him committed. Russell also wants access to Chuck's penthouse suite because he thinks there's some Avery memorabilia in there because Chuck's been investigating. Jack and Chuck have a run-in that gets physical. Russell's in the background watching. Chuck gets taken away and Jack gives Russell the key to Chuck's suite. In said suite, Russell grabs all the Bart Avery evidence and is about to leave when Chuck, Nate and Jack turn up all together. Turns out the Chuck-Jack fight was staged to make Russell play his hand. This being the second staged fight in front of Russell. How does this keep working? Also, I know that I definitely did not enjoy how 2D villain Jack was in previous seasons, but I also don't like how he's having this common enemy redemption arc right now. So they have a look at what Russell has grabbed from the Avery evidence, and there's a tape. The tape reveals that the person who locked Avery in the building and then set the building on fire wasn't Bart, it was Russell. He was looking for the evidence so he could get rid of it. He says that he knew about Bart's insurance fraud fire plans and that Bart and Avery were having an affair, but that he thought Bart was the one in the building when he locked it. So that letter from Avery wanting to end things was for Russell, not Bart. Then Russell made a deal with Bart to let Bart have Bass Industries and the insurance money if Bart let Russell run away to Chicago. So Chuck offers him the same deal. I won't tell the police and I won't tell Raina if you leave and never come back. Okay, so Blair's engagement party. Turns out Cyrus and Sophie both like birds, so suddenly Sophie is Cyrus Hive and says, okay Blair, maybe not everyone you associate with is like feral Chuck. Serena also turns up, even though they haven't fully squashed the beef of Serena trying to sabotage Blair. A BFF engagement is a BFF engagement. At the Constant St. Jude party, Offmed's cousin Charlie has taken Serena's advice a little bit too far and turned up in the exact same dress that Serena wore to Cotillion with Dan, same hair, same jewelry, everything. Serena's like, what the hell? And Charlie's like, oh my God, Serena, leave me alone. If you didn't want me to come with Dan, you should have just said that. Dan's just standing there like, wow, Serena never learns. Oh my God, Serena's the worst. Charlie and Dan split off from the party to a room and start hooking up. And while kissing, Charlie says, call me Serena. That's not. Dan's like, oh, that's really not the vibe. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Under pressure, Nate tells Raina that Russell is the one who killed her mother. She calls Russell and says, you're a monster. So now Russell is in cartoon villain freefall. Chuck arrives at the Constant St. Jude party looking for Blair, but she's not there. She'd gotten a call saying that Chuck was on a roof about to jump, so she'd gone to save him. But he's clearly not on a roof. When she gets to said roof, it's not Chuck Bass waiting up there for her. It's Russell Thorpe. So we're ending the season with whack storylines galore. Prince Louis, unmedicated cousin Charlie, cartoon villain billionaire Russell Thorpe taking Blair hostage. Obviously terrible situation for Blair, but arguably not as bad as being traded for a hotel. Serena has teamed up with Vanessa to deal with this Charlie situation. Sorry for thinking you're insane, V. My unmedicated cousin Charlie set you up. They turn up to the Constant St. Jude party looking for Charlie and Dan, just as Chuck turns up looking for Blair.
Hey, we need to talk to you.
I need to talk to you. Hey, I need to talk to you.
Ridiculous. See, but season 4 is self-aware because right after that, Eric says, just tell me that no one's trying to stop a wedding, run a Ponzi scheme, give anyone fake cancer, or turn into a justifiably vengeful townie. Then Georgina Sparks turns up at the party. Yes! Guys, Georgina's back. I truly could cry. I love how ridiculous Georgina is. She's got a new man named Philip and a 10-month-old baby, and she's bored as shit. She even says, I haven't been this bored since I believed in Jesus. She married Philip because he's rich and he wanted a trophy wife. She doesn't really do much this episode besides trying to get involved in whatever drama's unfolding, but everyone's like, be gone, evil Georgina. Random Motorola product placement of Eric on the phone to Lily and her watching some fuck-ass video on a fuck-ass Motorola tablet. Then Headmistress Quella randomly introduces Serena to Cecily von Zageza, who is the author of the Gossip Girl novels. That's the most gaggy cameo of them all. She says to Serena, I've read a lot about you. Oh, I'm sure you have. Chuck and Nate go looking for Blair and run into Raina, who apologizes to Chuck for trying to destroy him before she found out how much of a monster her father is. Blair manages to sneakily call Chuck, and he hears Russell talking and works out where they are. Russell's threatening Blair because she's the one thing Chuck loves the most. Oh my god, they're trying to make Chuck the Batman so bad, give up. Russell's threatening to burn the building down, how poetic. Chuck, Nate, and Raina arrive just in time to save Blair. Russell's toast. He's going to jail for a long time. Say hi to Ben for me. Even though he got out of prison, he's going back. I sent him there for being annoying. Raina tells Nate that she wants to go back to Chicago, so they break up. Nobody moved. Blair tells Chuck that she called him when she was held hostage because she couldn't see her phone and he was still on speed dial. And that is such an excellent little detail to include. Like, the writing team, you did your big one. Congratulations. Blair has to get back to Louis, but Chuck suggests that they go for a quick drink to calm down first. Instead of having a quick drink, they crash a bar mitzvah and have so much fun being silly. It sort of has an air of saying goodbye to each other and saying goodbye to their youth, if that makes sense. They'll never be those girls again type beat. Then they're suddenly having sex. Okay, a little dance and suddenly it's fine that Chuck cut Blair's face with glass. Right. Serena and Vanessa have split up looking for Charlie. Vanessa's gone to the loft and instead of finding Charlie, she finds a manuscript that Dan wrote and starts bloody reading it. Vanessa Abrams finding something she shouldn't have. Fork found in kitchen. When Dan calls to see if she found Charlie, she's like, no, but I found your little book titled Inside about you wanting to be part of the Upper East Side and it's really good. Dan says he can never publish it because he'll be ostracized from people who are now actually his friends and family. But Vanessa goes Palpatine mode and she's like, do it. She steals the manuscript. Serena finds Charlie about to jump from a window. She's saying, everyone thinks I'm crazy. Everyone thinks I'm unmedicated crazy cousin Charlie. I might as well end it all. Serena manages to talk her down, but Charlie's like, Serena this, Serena that. Everyone wants to be Serena. And Serena's like, babe, it's not that good being me. I can't even make a bloody decision. Dan and Nate arrive and Serena apologizes to them for not being able to choose between them. Then Charlie goes to call Mother Carol. But when she gets on the phone, she says, it went perfectly. And Georgina overhears this. Georgina's like, I know you're up to some shit, little lady. These meds you went on were never real. Here's my number. If you're ever back in the city, let's link up and destroy some lives. I'm bored. Blair tells Chuck that she's going to call off the engagement because she loves Louis, but she loves Chuck more. Louis makes her happy and it's easy, but loving Chuck is more intense and it's more whirlwind vibes. When they pull up to the Constant St. Jude party, Chuck sees that Louis's been waiting for Blair all night. The timeline here is that these two episodes happened over the same night, starting with Blair and Louis' engagement party. So Blair's about to break things off with Louis when Chuck interrupts like, oh, no. You guys are meant to be together. Happy engagement. Congratulations. He tells Blair, I left the Empire State Building after 2 minutes when he didn't show. Louis waited all night. He says that all he wants is for Blair to be happy. And if she gets that through being with Louis, then so be it. It's real like love you forever but bye kind of vibes. What's that saying? If you love something, let it go. I wrote in my notes that this breakup was written really well and it's really nice and really sweet, but these characters don't deserve it right now. Also, the acting in this scene is so excellent. Leighton Meester, the actress you are, she was Saoirse Ronan down. Meryl Streep was sat at home watching, pen and pad out, taking notes. At the end of the episode, Serena's decided to go to California to find herself. Maybe you should find a pen and do some homework. In California, she runs into a hot guy who's reading her favorite book, and it turns out he works for a guy who's going to turn the book into a movie. Jobless Serena's employment radar picks up like, ugh, a potential opportunity. Vanessa gave Dan's manuscript to a publisher and he's like, wow, this is amazing. We're going to publish it. Who wrote it? She's like, you don't need to know. Send me the money and I'll pass it on to him. Here's my new address. Barcelona? Vanessa Abrams is moving. She says that there's nothing keeping her in New York anymore. Because Serena sorted out the trust fund situation for Charlie, she's now got checkbooks from Cece and the trust fund is active. When she goes back to Aunt Carol in Miami, she gives Carol Charlie Rhodes checkbooks. And Carol says, "Thanks, Ivy." Who the hell is Ivy? She paid this woman, Ivy Dickens, to pretend to be her daughter, Charlie Rhodes, to get access to Charlie's trust fund. That is actually so fun and excellent to me. The unmedicated cousin Charlie storyline, I was like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. But this all being an act to get access to the trust fund, oh. Emmys, Golden Globes, Oscars, Tonys. Then Ivy pulls out Georgina's number and she's like, And we can see in her purse, luckily she has purse, we see in there that she's swiped one of the Charlie Rhodes checkbooks. Ivy Dickens will be back. It's basically on-screen text at the end of a Marvel movie. Ivy Dickens will return. The last scene is Dorota cleaning the shared Blair Serena bathroom, and we see in the bin a positive pregnancy test. Oh my God. Oh my God. OMGG. Oh my Gossip Girl. Do you see now what I was saying at the start of the video about this season being ridiculous? The Juliet plotline was so ridiculous. The Bart Bass potential murderer plotline was ridiculous. And Blair is engaged to a prince now, but it's all such good TV. On a more analytical note, I feel like the writers knew that things were getting a little bit silly because they kept trying to link these new plot lines with existing characters to keep viewers interested. Like, why was it necessary to be like, oh yeah, also Lily and Russell dated for a bit? And the Blair kidnapping? The Thorpe storyline was so... Here are some more observations that I have from this season. All Rufus Humphrey did in season 4 was give people advice. In my opinion, Vanessa's character development was so bad and they ruined her this season. That is dramatic, but I don't think it's too much of an overstatement. In seasons 1 to 3, I feel like she was at least kind of endearing while being annoying, but in season 4, she was just like flop and meddling the whole time. So it kind of sucks that she's just done and leaving on a flop. Similarly, this being Jenny and Eric's last proper season, I feel like they could have been used more. Jenny was just a plot conduit and Eric was there. I liked the slow burn of Dan and Blair hanging out, working together, and then the cheeky little kiss. I thought that was done well. The Dan Blair stuff kind of carried the season for me after the Juliet stuff fizzled out. No comment on season 5 Dare developments. Blair and Louie, I'm not gagging. Blair and Chuck, I am gagging, as in I want to throw up. So yeah, we made it to the end of another Gossip Girl recap. They said it couldn't be done. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you like the video and maybe leave me a comment giving your thoughts on the plot lines from this season. And of course, subscribe if you're new. Lost season 3 recap will be with you soon, and then Gossip Girl season 5 after that. Guys, we're low-key getting to the end. Okay, thanks again for watching. Bye.